Howdy, folks. Let's do this again. We had so much fun last night. Uh, let's see here. So I'm not sure who's going to come on or what we can talk about. I did want to talk a little bit about feeding, or better described as bees who don't consume all of their food over winter, bees that have hoarding traits, as I understand it. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that kind of thing. Hi, Richard. Briner. I'm not sure your name doesn't look familiar to me. Tell me where you're from, what part of the country you're from. The invite should be at the top of the chat. I think it's there. Let me go check. Yeah, it's there. All right. Hi, Dennis. Keeping bees with a smile in Amherst, Ohio. Okay. So you're in the throngs of winter like the rest of us. Dennis, hello. Tell us where you're from. So I guess what I was talking about just a minute ago about bees that conserve their food, bees that hoard their food, bees that come out of winter with excess stores. Um, I talked a little bit about that with my friend Mark today, and I just need to learn more about that. I'd like to know what other people do. What kind of those that breed queens, what's that called? What's the term that everybody uses when they talk about bees that will not gobble everything up and then starve out? So let's see, Dennis. Hello from Texas, about an hour and a half west of Fort Worth. Okay. I was curious, did you get any snow, Dennis? These some folks down there are seeing videos come in of snow with folks that normally don't get snow 10, 15 years out. We covered last night, we talked a little bit about the Excel sheet that Randy Oliver puts out, and talked about how we use that Excel sheet to learn about the treatments that we do, no matter what treatment you do. It was on that sheet to give you an idea of what your mite load would be on washes. Now, I know in spring, we have a lot of brood, and there's a lot of mites under the cappings. So we talked about that. I can bring that up again tonight if anybody's interested in talking about that, or plugging in some numbers just to see where you think your hives might be coming out of winter. Very light dusting is going by 9:30. Okay. Bill said he was going to come on, so we'll see. He might have. I think he's in a different time zone. I'm not sure. But what do you guys want to talk about tonight? Bee related. Let me fix this light. Let's see. It's not gonna be any fun if I just sit here talking to myself. Let's see. What else did I think about today? Some of my lighter five frames that I created last year. If I got some queen cells, and they didn't do very well. The other thing is though that I did not use formic on those because they were too small. So that's just a testament. I love formic. I think formic is a great product. I manage the queen loss. I get about a 10% queen loss. I think I had, when I did formic this year, I think I had about 35, 37 hives. I get about a 10% queen loss. And the first time, the May 2nd, I didn't get any queen loss because the flow was on. So I didn't experience queen loss. Then in July, when I did my second formic, I did experience the 10% queen loss. But I had already started my summer solstice queen nukes. So I had queens to spare. I had queens ready to go, or a small colony that was getting ready to requeen itself, in the process of requeening, requeened, and it was ready to plug into that 8 frame. I run 8 frames that was treated with formic and ready to jump in if I lost any of the queens. So knowing that and managing against it makes formic one of my favorite products to use for mite control. Let's see, it's like real estate location. Yeah, I'm up in the Northeast, outside of Philadelphia, north of Philly, about, oh, I don't know, maybe 25 miles, I guess 30 miles. Uh, so let's see, what was I talking about? Oh, the formic. Yeah, formic is great. I love it. I just I just wish we had another way. Like I said, I was talking to my friend Mark today, and we were talking about, making a formic product, maybe just a little different medium in place of pads, but somehow that we could use that to penetrate the cappings in the spring. And what got me onto that was watching Ian's video, not where he's rebuilding that machine, but um, where he talked about having, up in Canada. Now it's a different situation we have down here, but having other products to use, or we should be able to have products at the ready to choose from. I'm not sure we have those options now. I mean, we do have a couple options. Apiguard, I believe, is the other one that I have not ever used, but I was thinking about using that. Last year I used Formic twice, so I was able to get the mites under control until I started the oxalic vapor in September, October. So I didn't have to go to Apiguard. I think it's Apiguard. Is that the one that you put the gel, you use the little syringe and put the gel on? That one. Uh, that's the next mite treatment that I will use when I have to go to something else besides what I'm already using. So, hi, Dot House. Charlie has all these names memorized, and I just don't have it. So I don't know. I don't remember Dodd. Yeah, and I'm on at 7 Eastern time, so it is not quite 6. Oh, my honey of choice in my herbal tea tonight is, drum roll, is the bourbon via honeybees, the bourbon. I don't know if you can see that. How do they do that? Hold on. I got the tea in one hand. How do they do it? Smell, put their hand up. But yeah. Oh, something else I did today. I went and found in a neighboring town there's a barrel company. So I thought, huh, I'd really like to get like Tom and Melissa have that barrel. I love bourbon honey. I just love it, love it, love it. So I found that there was a bourbon or that there was a barrel company in a town near me. So I stopped in and he has barrels there. The one, I think it's 15 gallons. Is it 15 gallons? It's not, yeah, it's about the size of three 5-gallon buckets, but the shape of a barrel. And he had them there, and they had on there marked what they were used. Some of them were used for, I'll just say, liquor, and then they had maple syrup in them. So those were marked. And then the one that I was looking at, I didn't buy it, but the one I was looking at was just bourbon, and he popped off the little bung hole, and oh man, that smelled good. I'm not a liquor drinker, but it smelled good. It smelled great thinking about what it would smell like with honey in it. I guess is where my mind went with it. So he wants $140 for it, and so I think I'm going to put that into my budget because I think I could sell that bourbon honey at the markets here. I can't comment on the different treatments I do any. See, it's Dennis is saying. Oops, I can click on this here. I remember. Let's see. I can't comment on the different treatments I do any experience with them yet. Okay. All right. Yeah, some people, the guys down south, a lot of them don't treat at all. Some guys up here don't treat, but it's all what you decide to do. Um, really, there's no wrong way or right way. I mean, you know, there is industry standards, I guess we could say, but I don't have any ill will against those that don't treat. That's up to you. Um, just glad you're not my neighbor. That's all for that. But so anyway, so the bourbon barrel. Um, Tom and Melissa were on the other night with it and had a video of their barrel, and they have it on a neat thing that turns it, kind of like little wheels underneath it. I don't know how I would construct something like that, but so we do have to turn it, which I'll figure that out. Um, but I don't know about changing them out, only doing one rotation or putting honey in at one time and then getting another barrel. I don't know. Have to see how much they go for at market. Okay, Dennis. Do you have bees, Dennis? Do you already have? Are you already managing hives? Oh, so back to the bourbon barrel. I don't know, $140, but you know, I don't know how many gallons I would put in that. If it's 15 gallons, I'd have to put at least seven. I'll have to do the math on that and see what the market will bear. Okay, Dennis, you have 8 hives. Okay. I don't know what the market will bear on the bourbon honey here in the Philadelphia market. So I'll have to test that and see I guess I just have to do it once to get the barrel, put the honey in there, see what the market value will be on that, and then I guess decide if I want to do it again. Oh, okay, Dennis, you do cutouts. I see. Is that where you got your 8 hives? Can you come on, Dennis? Come on and talk about your cutouts. I do not do cutouts. I don't get up on a ladder. I mean, I'll do, swarm calls if I can reach them, or a few steps up. I won't. I'm not trying to do anything like that. So Dennis, I don't know what you're saying yes to. I also do. Oh, I asked you. Okay, don't do the camera thing at this time. You don't have to have your camera on. You can, when you come into the studio, you can just click the camera off. I used to do that um, back when I was, wanted to talk a little bit or talk to somebody or on the subject. I just leave the camera off. You can do that. So what else did we talk about today? The food thing, like the genetics that conserve food. I'm gonna really start tracking coming out of winter, tracking the hives that conserved food or had food left over. And I'm not so sure this is the right spring to do that because I did have to start feeding. I fed most of the fall. I mean, we went into dearth August. I started feeding and I'm still feeding. They have sugar and fondant on them. Oh, Don here, you need a ladder. Okay, no, that's misleading. That's misleading. So, uh, let's see here. What am I looking at? So this is I don't I that's not a real hive. Like that's just stacking of boxes. Um, this here, I don't know if you can see straight above my head. That is two deeps, an inner cover, and then a medium for whatever I have in there. This here, I don't remember this year. I don't think this might be a hive. This might be a 5 frame. This here is going to be your winter configuration. Yeah, this is a I'm already in my winter configuration here. I don't have a lot of outside storage or inside storage, so my boxes stay out. They get stacked up, and then I store things inside the boxes as well. I strap them to so they're kind of all in place for spring when I get ready to do my splits or whatever I'm doing. Everything's right there. Starting to Black River Valley Metro Parks. Okay, Richard says I am hunting the German black bee. Well, we have some of that genetics up here in Pennsylvania. I've had some very black queens and some hives that have a lot of black bees. Is that the German black? I don't know. Visually, I would say it is. But if you know more about that, Richard, to talk about it because still survives in the Black River Valley metro parks. Okay. No, and Dodd House, I put three supers on, but then I extract. I'll take two supers off, leave one on. I'll extract it, um, and then put them back on. So that cuts down on excess equipment if I just extract more often. I also run my supers through a freezer before or after extraction. See, Dennis, I'm an old guy. I don't have a camera on my computer. I may come on sometime in the future with voice after I talk to the wife. Okay, cool. Yeah, I call them faux hives out back when I put boxes or extra equipment on a cinder block. I try to run my strap. If you notice, I have to strap because next to me is a dairy farm and it's all northwest winds. The prevailing winds come across that field and hit my hives and they tumble sometimes. They used to before I became more experienced in this yard. Uh so I strap down, and then I try to, if there's no bees in that configuration, I will run the straps differently, like over the long way, so it covers, like, strap them down where it would be the bees would have to go past the strap to get into the entrance. But there's no bees in there, and that's kind of how I can just do a visual on where there's bees and where there isn't, which boxes have bees and which boxes do not have bees. So Dennis says, I'm in the market for some queens this spring. Mine are spicy. Well, well, spicy hives. There's a lot of reasons hives are spicy other than genetics. I think that's the very last. That's the very last option, or the last place I would go when we talk about a spicy hive. I think 95% of spiciness um, could come from the practices of the beekeeper. Okay, they're mean. Yes. Okay. Well, there's a lot of reasons bees are mean, and the least of it is the genetics or the drones. But I have never killed a queen. I've never killed a queen here in my yard. I haven't killed a hive. I guess so. I did put up with a mean hive for 2 years, and I just decided a couple years ago that I wasn't going to treat it and I wasn't going to feed it. I wasn't going to intervene with its health and safety. So it came to its demise. Okay, Richard, let's see here. Called a swarm of black bees near the valley, trying to find again to test the genetics. Huh. Here comes Charlie. Hey, buddy.
Hey,
Hello.
let me get this thing set up.
Can't hear you, dear. Hit your mic. Hit your mic. Okay, Dennis is here. We're talking a little bit about black bees, and then Dennis is talking about
You can hear me now?
Texas bees. They are not like store bees. Okay. I don't know what store bees are, but
Can
feral
you hear me?
Texas.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, turn it up a little bit, Charlie. Turn yourself up. I haven't had anybody to test me either. I don't know if I'm
You're you're
too
fine.
loud or too soft or so Mark Miller, if maybe he'll come on talking about hi Mike, talking about his queens, how he plans to do things this year. Oh, Lee, there's Lee. You can hear Charlie? Maybe it's me. Charlie, say something.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's me.
Judy?
Oh, mine's down. Okay. There you go. Thanks, Lee.
All right, that's better.
Yeah, it's always nice to have another set of eyes. So you were Mark Miller sells queens. Uh, um, Mark will come on. Mark will come on somebody's chat, maybe not tonight, but he'll come on and talk about what he does and what he's got going on.
Well, Mark's got a lot of. I'll say he's been breeding VHS, and
Mm-hmm.
he's been
Mm-hmm.
connected with Corey Stevens in the past. Not sure whether that connection is still there, but I mean, he's got his bloodline genetics and all that. I think he's continually grafting and getting that genetic trait stronger and
Yeah.
everything. So
So,
anyway, yes,
what?
another cold day.
Yeah, I know. It's just getting depressing. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
Well, I
just
mean,
gotta
I'm
get.
out in it all day. In the last 2 or 3 days, it's been pretty rough. We try to stay in and not do much of anything. Today, we actually got out and got a few. One guy kept, hey, Mike, um, kept, he ordered us beam. And I'm like, look, it's cold. I can barely stay out here.
Yeah,
But I finally got him done. And he came and got it right away. So another headache done.
good.
No,
Um, oh, I was just thinking of something and now I lost it that quick. Oh, c- um, so I was talking to Mark today a little bit about mailing queens and hey, there's Bill. Hold on. Come in, Bill. It'd be kind of cool if we could figure this out. If we could figure out instead of mailing queens, um, because I think it stresses them out. I've never bought a queen through the mail. I think I've only ever bought two queens at all, ever. The first one left out of her cage and she flew around in circles, never saw her again. The second one I actually put in, but that was years and years ago now.
yeah. Hey,
But
Matt.
what we were talking a little bit about is it would be cool if we could get some sort of system where, with these national bee chats, we pretty much know people from all through the states. Like I'd be willing to drive 5 hours to pick up a bunch of queens to bring them up to the Northeast. I mean, it's just a fantasy, but wouldn't that be cool if we could get some sort of I mean, they do it with dogs all the time. Those rescue, they're always running. You know, each person will drive like 3 hours, load and unload and things like that. But wouldn't that be cool if we get some sort of system where we could move queens around without putting them on planes?
But the best way right now is the United States Postal Service.
No, I know. Now, sure,
Yep,
but it comes with a risk.
it always is a risk. Anytime
Hi,
you
Matt.
ship anything anywhere, it's a risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's our, as far as problems with queens, like you said, the postal service, um, they'll put in a hot truck in the summertime, or they'll close
Mm-hmm.
up the relation screen, and the people that you giving these in care of have no clue on what their um, handling. They don't know how to
Right.
handle.
Right.
You would almost have to be like a start your own postal service that deals with this kind of stuff. You know, that would be the only way to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you put them in the Queen shipping boxes that they make for them, and you put a value on it, they don't care.
Well,
They don't
no.
care
I
at
mean, the
all.
things that they're shipping, the things that those people are shipping is crazy. Like they couldn't possibly be educated on every single thing they ship.
Nope.
Richard wants to know about the German black bee. Well, Richard, I know here in Maryland, up in Cecil County, there was a German black bee. There's a guy up lives up there, and they were really mean bees.
Ooh.
Mhm.
And well, it was Merle, you know, Nancy.
Oh
Merle
yeah, I
talked
know, Merle.
Merle
Sure,
talked
sure.
about them German black bees in his area, and where he figured that the bees that he was capturing were kind of like the descendants of the settlers that brought them in over here. And
Ooh.
I don't know. I think it just kind of they just kind of faded away. I guess you would say.
So
That's
so if I have a full
intermixed, interbred, whatever.
if I have a queen that's all black or bees that are all black, that's not traits of German black bee? Is that something different?
I don't know.
No, that's a coloration of your queens nowadays. You get, it doesn't matter what strain they are or whatever. They could be Italian carnies or mutts. They could be all black.
Okay.
Yeah, like my queens that I raise are kind of they're a carny mix, and they're more on the black. They're
Yep.
black girls. They're hard to find too, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just got a real black colorization. They don't have. You get yourself a. You get two hives together, and you put a let's say an Italian queen over here, and you'll get this carny that's a. It's kind of a dark brown to black looking queen, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not marked. I can spot that Italian right away because she's got like a fluorescent orange about her.
Yep.
And that darn Carney, she'll be right in front of me on the frame, and I can't see her because she's camouflage,
Yeah, those black queens
Mm-hmm.
are hard to find.
very camouflaged.
Yep.
We were talking about raising queens last night, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think about this, Bill? You raise queens, mark them in the virgin stage. Is that going to be detrimental? I've heard both ways on that.
We don't mark them as virgin. We mark them after they're mated. That way we know they're mated.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Some people think, you put a mark on them, the bird can see them better and all that stuff.
yeah.
Ah, I don't.
Now, but
I
there's going to be an issue down the road because somebody's going to get the bright idea. Hey, I'll mark these virgins, sell them as mated.
oh yeah.
So you got to be very careful with that because if you mark virgins, and I already know of one person that tried to sell virgins as mated queens, and they got in a bootload of trouble over it.
Well, good. That's how it should be. Yeah, when I sell nukes, well, I guess you could circumvent the system anyway. You're smart enough to figure it out. But when I'm selling nukes, I show the person the frame with the queen and the eggs. Like, we go through them together.
Yep.
But I guess you could, I don't know. Like I
How do
said, I
you
guess
get
you
them?
could
How do you get them there to do all that?
Yeah,
You
really.
know,
Tell
well,
me.
so
what's your
so when I sell a nuke to somebody, they come with their equipment. They come with their box.
Ah,
And I screen in the bottom and the top and with just the inner cover. They have ratchet straps. And then we go down. They give me the 5 frames. It's usually a 10 frame deep. They'll give me 5 frames, and then I park the box next to the hive that I'm going to pull those 5 frames and that queen from, and then we go through the frames and I pull them out. They look at them, shine the queen's clipped and marked, and there's eggs. I show them all the stages, that's in there, so they know what they're getting. And then sometimes if I need to put a little bit more food in, I'll pull frames from another hive that have food on them, and then we load up theirs, strap it down, put it in their truck, and off they go.
So there's a lot of people that sell nukes like you do, and there's a lot of people that sell nukes like I do. Um, when I sell a nuke, they're already in a nuke box with 5 frames,
Mm-hmm.
and they buy the complete set.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I bought those corrugated boxes, and then the $20 refund, and then
No,
they bring me the
I
20
sell a
bucks.
wooden I
I don't
sell a
want to do any
wooden
of
nuke.
that.
I sell a wooden nuke box when I sell nukes.
Oh yeah, no, that wouldn't go over up here.
Okay.
So this is a little pet peeve of mine, and since this is my chat, I can go off a little bit about it. So there is a nuke. A nuke is a verb and a noun.
Yeah.
So we have to, so there's a 5 frame box, there's an 8 frame box, there's a 10 frame box. You could have a nucleus colony in a 10 frame box, an 8 frame box, or a 5 frame box.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as beekeepers, we need to start distinguishing between a nuke and a nuke and a nuke and a nuke, especially for the new people. Anybody new coming in. Because what's a nuke? A nuke is a colony, right? A nuke is a
Yeah.
5 frame box. But we
That's
don't
an
have a name for an
established
8 frame
colony.
box
Yeah.
or 10 frame box. So when I sell a colony, a nucleus colony, it's 5 frames.
Yep.
Why does it matter if it's in an 8 frame box and I take 5 frames out with the queen and the bees? Or if it's in a 5 frame box, I take 5 frames out. Like,
It's still a nucleus colony, either way you look at it.
right.
Um,
Every colony is a nucleus colony.
yeah, you're right.
So,
There just
right.
needs to be an established standard.
It's an established colony.
Yeah.
It's not so what we're distinguishing between is an established colony and a package. Whether that established colony is in a 10 frame, an 8 frame, or a 5 frame doesn't matter. It's that it's an established colony with drawn comb and a queen with her brood, her workers. That's what we're selling as a nucleus colony, not a package, which is a bunch of bees dropped in and a queen. They're not related. There's no drawn comb, you know.
Right.
So I think as a, I think we should start distinguishing in about a 5 frame
Yeah.
colony.
Right. There needs to be a set standard. So when somebody in the beekeeping community says, I have nukes for sale, everybody knows
That's
with that
right.
statement, it's a five frames of bees.
May not be. Could be 8. Could be 10. Because they're all nucleus colonies.
I understand what you're saying, but if you want to set a standard,
Right.
okay,
So yep. So
you
my
set that
my my
standard, nucleus colony, the definition of a nucleus colony for the
is what?
purpose of sale would be 5 frames of bees.
Right. Right.
And when
Five
you
frames of
say,
bees.
yes, when you advertise nukes, hey, I've got nukes for sale, everybody knows it's 5 frames of bees.
So right. So you would just so when I advertise, I say I have an overwintered queen with an overwintered queen with 5 frames of brood food and worker bees.
Yeah. So
Like
you're selling an overwintered nuke.
so right, so some people want an overwintered queen, so
Yep.
those go out first, and
Yep.
then I would sell. So the other thing is I sell sets, which is 2 frames, brood, overwintered queen if you want her, or a new queen. Um, I would get a new queen from now if I wouldn't even worry about overwintered queens anymore. But if I was a new beekeeper, but I sell sets as well. So the 5 frames doesn't necessarily like, I mean, I went round and round with a local beekeeper up here where she was saying that I was falsely advertising because I didn't overwinter them in a 5 frame box.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah, that's what I was
I don't
saying.
Well, the
overwinter
thing,
mine.
I overwinter in a 5 frame box, but most of your nuke producers, they're pulling 5 frames out of a 10 frame hive.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
I think, well, Bill, don't you do that where you pull several nukes out of the same one hive?
I have when I pull nukes, I have 10 frames of bees, and typically my 10 frames of bees are like Charlie's hives. When you open the top, they're boiling up out of it. So I'll find the queen, 2 frames of brood, 2 frames of a frame of honey, a frame of pollen, and then a frame of whatever, drawn comb or whatever goes in there with her. That is a 5 frame overwintered nuke because the overwintered queen is in there. The other 5 frames, it's an introduced queen. It's going to be a week or so before they're ready to go. So I split the brood and the food between 2 nukes. So out of 10 frames of bees, I get 2 nuke hives. One's introduced and one's overwintered.
Right. So
And,
your
and
second set, so the first set that goes out for me are overwintered queens, and
Yep.
then the second would be, but I don't buy queens. I would it would it's a new queen.
and
You know,
really, that new queen is the better queen than
I
the
know that's why I
overwintered
get to
queen.
keep
Exactly.
her. I keep
Yeah.
most of them.
Yes.
Um, and then Matt here says a nucleus colony for us is anything made that year and not able to produce. See, I think up here people get 5 frames so that they can produce. They can become producing hives.
In that year. If they get them early enough, they can. Because
Okay, hold on. All right, these
they're already established.
if I have a double deep 10 frame, I can get 4 nukes. 3 have mated queens, and only 1 will be winter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
three of them would have
when
three
it
of them
comes to
would have new queens, which would be mated queens that you would introduce into those nukes after you've done the split, and then one of them would be an overwintered queen. And it
Small.
used to
So
be
yeah.
when you bought an overwintered nuke, you could get more money for an overwintered nuke than you could a spring nuke or a late season nuke. But now that's not the case anymore.
So Lee is giving us the definition, which every colony is a nucleus colony. Doesn't matter a smaller colony or a larger colony. I mean, a colony, they're all nucleus colonies. Smaller than a regular colony, I don't think that wouldn't be part of the definition because some colonies never get to be regular. They're always smaller. Some are monsters.
Mm.
But I think the biggest thing is it used to be 10 years ago or more, the sales pitch was, oh, that's a proven queen. It's overwintered. It's the better
Yeah.
queen and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And now, from what I've learned,
Oh, it's moving too
you
fast.
know, with my queen issues that I had this past spring is that it doesn't matter. You know, if you got a fresh queen in the spring, that's, you know, and then it's like a friend of mine said, it's like a Russian, you know, it's like a crapshoot. You can have
Yeah.
a brand new queen and she can be a dud as far as being a high production queen. And then you can have another one that you just made alongside of her and she's like going like gangbusters. And then, you know, it used to be like the one guy was saying, what was it last night on the chat, you know, about queens lasting 4 or 5 years. I think it might have been
Oh, who
New
does
Jersey.
that?
You know,
Yeah,
that
that's
not anymore.
Not
no, that's
anymore.
book. That's in the book. That's written in the book. That's a book.
Well,
Yeah, so
it used
Gary,
to, it 10, 15, 20 years ago, Nancy, it used to
mhm.
be you didn't requeen as often as you requeen now. If you had a queen that lasted 4 years, that was the first queen that went out in the nuke. The very first one that went out in the nuke.
So I wanna ask something there. 4, 5, 10, 15 years ago, did they mark and clip queens? Did they mark
No,
queens?
no, you
So
did
how
not
did they
kill
even
queen.
know? They had no idea how old that queen was.
Right,
None.
exactly.
That queen,
But the beekeeper that was selling those nucleus colonies knew. And that's how beekeepers got rid of their older queens and their junk equipment and their old brood frames that were ready to be rotated out anyway. They would put them in a wooden 5-frame box. There you are. There's your nuke, and send you down the road.
yeah. So
So
Gary's saying here, right. So that would not be an overwintered bees isn't even a like that's not even it's overwintered queen. Overwintered queen. Those have to be together in the sentence. Wintered bees. That's not even
By the time you get
an
that nuke in the
overwintered
springtime,
colony.
all them damn bees that went over winter are dead.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
They're dead.
Add a new
You know,
queen.
you're
Well,
right back
no,
to the
right.
what we're right back
When
to
you
what
get into selling nukes and queens, it's a play on words, is what it is.
Yes.
yeah.
So you want to say you're gonna advertise overwintered nukes
Yep.
is what you
Overwintered queen.
advertise.
Not overwintered nuke, overwintered queen. That's the
When
important.
I advertise overwintered nukes.
See, I advertise overwintered queen
So are
as
you selling me
my
just a queen?
no, a 5-frame colony with an overwintered queen. Because
Okay.
that's the you know the first year beekeeping courses are talking about getting local bees, getting overwintered queens, getting 5 frames instead of a package from the south. I mean, it's the same rhetoric. So when and it's kind of funny when someone shows up in my driveway, I know which club they're part of by the words they use, or if they're not involved in a club at all, you know? Because I've been to all the local, I mean, I've been for years to all the local clubs around and I know how they talk. The same people are in charge year after year after year, same thing. So, but what's Lee saying here? Group forming the base of its activities and growth. Okay. Part of an object, movement, or group forming the basis of its activities and growth. All right.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, I think
Yeah.
that you know what we're discussing here is like Nancy says. I think there's the sales pitch or the idea of what they've been teaching, everybody's
Yes.
hmm
been discussing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, southern bees are no good, and
Yeah, that's what we
southern
hear up
queens
here.
are no good.
That's
And
not
then
true.
and then you come up here, oh, you want to get local bees because they're gonna live, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't care if you give my nuke to the brand new beekeeper, he's gonna kill it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, he's gonna kill the sucker.
Yeah, they're gonna kill them.
New mites are going to kill the bees, whether they're from the north or the south.
That's right. Exactly. And it's
So,
just
but
it's like queens,
Right.
I got them from
Yeah.
I mean, I got 16 queens from Cuda because I needed something quick, something up here quick and fast.
yeah,
And they were all mated. And I put them all down, and I got ones with, I got nukes, 10 nukes and stuff, to get myself back up and running come last spring. And I've noticed you go and you look down, you go down to the, 16 different hives, and every one of them's got a different personality when it comes to a queen. This one here is gangbusters. This one's here's gangbuster. This one's like, it's mediocre. Another one ain't worth a darn. It just kind of, just didn't do it. Well, that one's probably didn't get mated proper, made it good enough or something that
made it late.
Or made it late or
Yeah.
whatever, So, I mean, you can, like you say, you can get 16 queens and not every one of them is not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, Lee's got a good statement up here. Southern bees might not be good in the north, and northern bees might not be good in the south. And I agree with that.
See, I don't agree with that. Sorry, Lee. I don't agree with that.
Because we get packages out of Northwest Georgia. Same type of climate we're in here. They're in the mountains, and they do very well. It's a crapshoot when you buy packages, though, because as Nancy was saying earlier, they're not related. They don't know each other. So if they get the bright idea, hey, we don't like this box or we don't like this queen, we're going to leave, they all leave. Then you're out whatever you paid for that package. All right. Unless you've got drawn comb to put in there with them so that queen can get established and start building that hive, then they call it home. But if you dump a package on plain frames with nothing drawn out, good chance they're going to leave. You're going to lose them. Whereas that 5 frames of bees, it's established. They know each other. There's drawn comb, there's brood, and there's food. They're going to stay there. That's a 95% chance they're going to stay.
Yeah. So Richard here, so this kind of sounds like, what's heavier, a 1 pound jar of honey or 1 pound of feathers?
No, they're both
So
the same.
how much honey is equal to 1 cup of firmly packed brown sugar? How much one cup of sugar? I mean, what are we, like 1 cup of honey? Or what are you asking? You asking the sugar content?
How much
are you asking the weight? Cup? So 1 cup is 8 ounces of what? Like, I don't know what you're asking here. How much honey is equal to one cup? That's how much honey is equal to 1 cup of brown sugar.
And Gary Stewart's
and everybody knows.
Yeah. I say Gary
and everybody knows you pack brown sugar. Brown sugar is packed always.
Here's your answer.
So I don't know, Richard. I don't know what you're asking.
What do you mean by that, Nate? What do you mean packed brown sugar?
So when you a baker or cooker, whenever you use brown sugar, it has to be you push it down and then you add more. So a half a cup or 1 cup of brown sugar is always packed. Not like flour. Flour, you need
got your answer.
Air.
It's 2/3 of a cup of honey is equal to 1 cup of packed brown sugar.
But what's
what difference does it make? What's the
difference?
Point?
Yeah. What are you asking?
I mean, I'm just answering Richard's question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where was it here?
So brown sugar, you pack brown sugar. Whenever a recipe calls for brown sugar,
whenever you
packed.
Use brown sugar in a recipe, it's always packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 2/3 of a cup of honey equals 1 cup of packed brown sugar.
So here's a good one. Back to
that's the one I wanted to talk about.
Right. If you're ordering packages, most likely they come from the South. Well, of course, because I don't sell packages. Charlie doesn't sell packages.
Yeah, but you got to remember
From
one
the
thing. AI Root started this whole business of packages,
Yeah.
100 years ago. Well, he figured out that the beekeepers in the South are 2 months ahead of us. We can't grow queens. We can't do anything until May. Everybody up here wants to have bees up and running for the honey thing. So he figured out how to get bees male. He actually had a like a, what do you call it, a game. And if you can get them here alive, I'll pay you so much money for them. And they would put them on the train and run them up the railroad tracks up to Vermont or wherever AI Root lived and all that. And that's how he figured out how to make bringing bees as packages up there. He started an industry in the deep South because we can't do any of this kind of. If we did not get any packages like Canada won't get them from us, you can't, because you can't cross the line, then we would have to be solely reliable on ourselves, and we would grow bees this year, but we wouldn't be able to get them up to speed until next year. So that's, we're being subsidized from the keepers that are 12 hours south from us.
So now I'm going to burst your bubble, Charlie.
Okay.
There's a guy in Mount Airy, Maryland that shakes packages.
He does what?
Really?
There's a guy in Mount Airy, Maryland that shakes packages.
Shakes packages.
He makes package, 3-pound package of bees.
Who's that? Yeah, I know who you're talking about too.
You know who I'm talking about. Wood Camp.
Wood Camp Farm.
Yep, Wood Camp Farms. Because I got like 30 some packages from him last year and delivered 28 of them. 2 of them didn't come pick them up, and I kept 2 of them, and they did beautiful. They did great. They're ready to be producers this year.
But he's also bringing in packages from down south too, I believe.
No, he's not. His early packages, yes. He shakes packages in April for late April delivery.
So where does he get the queens?
He raises them. They're latchaws.
So
Gary, as far as Man Lake's packages are coming out of California.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
They're coming out of the almonds. They're coming off the almonds, most likely.
Yeah.
No, it's what's the breeder out there?
Pope Canyon.
Huh?
Pope Canyon in California. I don't know who the breeder is. I know what the queen breed is.
Yeah. I know that Lee and them, or Lloyd, said that they were coming out of. What they do is they put them on a refrigerated tractor trailer.
Yep.
And they cool them down to about 40 degrees, and they bring them all the way out to Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Wherever they're at, and all that stuff.
So some of those migratory bees, don't they get shook into packages?
Sometimes.
After they work the almonds?
And they go out to the almonds out there. It's cheaper for them to take and make nukes, put queens in them, and sell them out there at a cheap ass price because it costs you too much money to bring them back east.
To bring them back. But yeah,
so I want to go back to Matt. I want to go back to Matt here. So Matt's a new beekeeper. So this is interesting from a new beekeeper's point of view. Start with packages. In my opinion, nukes are potentially a virgin swarm. Well, right. So the reason that so you can sell a swarm, which what I call a packed nuke. If you pack them too full, they're going to swarm. So if you're going to sell 5 frames of bees that are just boiling over and full of brood to a new beekeeper, you're selling them a swarm. So it is on the seller to sell a good product, and a packed
Well,
five
that was my biggest
frame
complaint.
is
You
gonna
know,
swarm.
you know,
So you don't.
I sold them a rocking package, nuke 5 frame nuke package, and that, like the guy 2 years ago I've talked about before. I'll put them in tomorrow. I says, no, you got an hour and a half before nightfall. You get home, put them
Yeah.
suckers in there, or
Yep.
don't even call me back if they fly away, because I said they're getting hot, they're gonna melt. And I
Yep.
said, if
That's why I put
anything,
them
you
right in
make
their
sure
box.
yeah. I
I put
mean,
them right in their
how
box.
much effort does it take? 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
You don't need to light a smoker. Just pick them up, put them in, make a hole, drop the
Yep.
frames in the hole, shake the bees out of the box, and open the carton up so they can fly out, and whatever, and you're done.
See, that's why they
Yep.
bring their box to me. I put them in that way. All they got to do is set them in place, take the screens off,
I've
put
done
the
that
telly
in years
cover on,
past where they bought their
and
own
watch
hive.
them and look at them.
Yeah.
And that's all they need to do for their first year. I mean, if they're new, doing anything more than that, or giving them a bust in 5 frame, you're not doing them a favor. You're doing them a disservice. So I do agree with Matt on some of it, but it's the seller. It's selling two full new 5 frames.
Yeah.
Hi, Roy.
Um,
Oh, back here to this cooking with. So I really don't advise cooking with honey. I don't think it's a good idea to take honey over 100 degrees. I know that's not a popular opinion to have, but there's, sweeteners are designed in recipes for a reason. Honey, if a recipe is not created around honey as its sweetener, you shouldn't be changing it. You need to find another recipe.
yeah, but the thing of it is, if you cook with honey, now I haven't, but I know people who have, you can't
Mhm.
cook. It's totally different
Yes.
because there's more moisture in honey than there is sugar. And you don't
Mhm.
have, like, if it calls for so many cups of milk or something in there, you got to cut that moisture down. Let's say by half. I'm not sure, but
Right.
cooking
Right.
with honey, the recipe completely changes on how the proportions of at least
Unless
whatever.
unless that recipe is created as honey as its sweetener, you shouldn't be substituting. So this is my suggestion. I work a lot of markets. I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people a week. When you want to incorporate honey as a sweetener, start with an unsweetened product and add honey at the end. Don't put it in a cake mix and bake it. Don't put it in cookies and make it. And I know this is not going to be popular. And I'm going to have cooks come on and say, "Oh, I do it all the time." That's great. But my honey, the honey that I very don't filter hardly at all, has a lot of pollen. It has a lot of things in it. The reason that we're eating raw honey. If you take that honey and put that in a cake as a sweetener, you destroyed the cake and you destroyed the honey.
Well, there's a lot of
So,
cookbooks out now because being
yep.
a diabetic, I'd rather have my food prepared with honey than sugar. There's a difference. Your body processes
Well,
honey differently than
it's
it processes sugar. So
your
there's a
body.
lot of cookbooks out here. If you search for cooking with honey cookbook,
Hmm.
it's pages. There's like, let me get to the bottom of the page here. There's at least 10 pages that list cooking with honey cookbooks.
Right.
And
So my question is, were those recipes designed by a beekeeper? or designed by a pastry chef who doesn't know anything about honey?
Hold on a minute. I can
Like,
tell you. I'm gonna pull one of them up here.
yeah, share it. Share it.
This is on Amazon, and it was written by Lori Masterson. Hang on a second.
No, you can't do a lot of things with honey. I mean, honey is designed to be you want to make a cake, you know, cut the sugar down a little bit, add the honey at the end when the cake's hot. Drizzle it
Yeah,
with
but I've
honey.
I've had cheesecake made out of honey. You can't tell. You can't taste the honey. It's no different.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't taste any different. It's just a different sweetener. That's
Right.
it.
If you were to drizzle raw honey on that cheesecake before you served it, that's where you're going to get your ultimate flavors. Not with the honey cooked within the recipe itself. Okay, I don't
Right.
know how to make that any bigger.
But that's
Hold on.
this.
Let's
If you
see.
go, there
There
you
we
go.
go.
This is one
Okay.
of them that is listed on Amazon, and right there's who wrote it.
So who is
And there's all kinds of recipes in here. But if you're diabetic like me,
yeah.
it's easier for me to process honey, my body to process honey, than it is for my body to process processed sugar, which is what white sugar is. It's processed sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing of it is, it still doesn't it. I mean, there's always been a what do you call it? An argument, I guess you would call it. You still have the same effect from either one.
It's a spike. There is a sugar spike, but where with
Yeah.
processed sugar, that spike is a lot higher and lasts a lot longer than the spike with honey.
Shorter. Feels shorter.
It's if I'm sitting at 100 right now for my blood sugar, and I go eat a teaspoon of just white processed sugar, my blood sugar may go up over 300.
And
If
then
I go
drop
eat that
fast.
same teaspoon of honey, it may go up to 200 but drop faster. Whereas that spike with that processed sugar, because it stays in my body longer, it may take an hour and a half for it to disappear.
Oh.
But the honey, it only takes 45 minutes. So there's a big difference. And we use honey all the time in our foods because of that. And that's why these big honey shows like Georgia State Honey Show, Nabi, that's why they have the different foods that have been prepared with honey in them,
Mm-hmm.
and they jug them. That's why they do that.
Right.
Because it's out there. It is a thing for people to do.
So a lot of things I use, they have no sugar in them. They don't have any sugar, no sweetener at all. And then I use the honey as a sweetener.
Yeah. Like I'll put honey, a little bit of honey in coffee or hot tea, or if I get unsweetened ice cream, I'll put a little honey.
Unsweetened ice cream.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
nasty.
What?
I think
It's nasty.
Is it?
I think I just would forego buying that kind of stuff.
Right. It's
but
like
see, I
frozen
don't
milk.
have a choice.
And I just kind of quit. You kind of quit all that stuff a little bit.
I don't have a choice. I mean, there's a lot of things that I gave up 30 years ago, but I don't have a choice anymore.
Am I missing people coming in? I'm sorry if I'm missing you. Keith, I saw Keith. Is Keith in? I don't know.
Tom Mack's in.
Yeah, Tom's in. Gary's. So I want to apologize for going down that upper entrance trail last night. I followed somebody down that rabbit hole. And there was by no means any animosity at all in that conversation on from my end. I didn't feel that at all. I think it was Gary and I think it was DC and myself were having this round and round about upper entrances, but that's just part of beach chat. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
I
So
just think
what
that was
were
a
they
typical.
saying? I mean, I know you don't do upper entrances, do you?
No, they were saying that they do upper entrances and why you should, and I was saying why you shouldn't. I mean, that conversation was a bee chat in the essence. Three beekeepers talking smack. That's all that was.
I mean, I've never used upper entrances. Oh, well, I won't say never, but as far as like they used to drill holes in the boxes and all that kind of stuff. No,
Hmm.
I never did any of that. Now I used to do upper ventilation a little bit, I got my, like you see him on my movies where I've got the blocks of wood in there that jack that telly
Sure.
up
Summertime.
and
Yes.
it's summertime, and I kept them in there year round and all. Now this year I went to the condensing hive where I closed everything up tight on the top and I put my insulation on there. Haven't had any moisture problems.
Mm-mm.
And I went out there like we were talking last night, where it's 15 degrees at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I got that clear inner cover on, and the bees are at least a foot in diameter, and you're not sitting there all frozen to death, or not death, but where they're
Yeah.
just stiff and they're not moving because it's too cold. They're in there just kind of, they're not moving around much, but they're kind of like the darn pizza party we had. We're kind of crawling over top of each other.
Bees do that anyway.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, we were acting like a bunch of bees at the dinner party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I popped a couple lids last what is it, Wednesday now, maybe I don't know what it was, Friday. So I did make a little video of one of them, but um I popped some of those lids and picked up my rapid round lid and looked down and I swear those bees looked up at me like, the hell are you doing here? It's is winter time, like what are you looking at me for?
Why are you in here?
But
Yeah, I get that all the time when we go in to do stuff.
anyway, um, it's, I was concerned about the moisture thing, but it seems to be working just fine. And I got friends of mine have been doing it for like 6 years. I just finally got around to it. And then I think also Bill Heschbeck, who did a what do you call it, a presentation about it. Um,
Yeah, I don't clean my boxes. No way. I leave all that propolis. I don't scrape boxes anymore or
what he's where
frames.
did where did he scrape the propolis out of?
I don't know.
Well, what do you expect?
Yeah.
What do you expect? He's a master beekeeper,
Come on
Well,
now,
he's a
Charlie.
nice guy.
Lighten up.
He's a really nice guy. But
Yeah, well, I
some
don't
of
know. He
some
never
of the
spoke to me at Nobby or Hive
some
Life.
of the things, I helped a friend of mine do extraction and she scraped every box down to the wood. She is wax dipped, but scraped and scraped and scraped. And I just thought,
Why?
what are you what are you
Yeah,
doing
why?
that for?
Why? Why do
Why?
all that?
Yeah, they need that. They
Let
need
it
it.
stay
The
in
only
there.
thing I
Use
scrape
tough
on my
squirting.
boxes is I get in there, especially in the springtime, and I might cycle a medium over with another medium, and that way I can, like, especially when it's coming out of winter, you got all the ears on your frames all goofed up with stuff, and I like to be able to slide things sideways easily, and I'll
Hmm.
scrape the frame rests,
Yeah.
and I got my
Yeah.
frame rest. I got my frame rest protected with that steel piece of tin on there, and I'll just be able to scrape it
Yeah.
easier. But other than that, that's it.
So I saw this. I saw Tom's. I use penny nails. So I misunderstood that my second or third year of beekeeping, and I thought they said pennies. So I put pennies on the corners of my boxes. Some are still there. But yeah, so there's pennies all over my yard. But I use that as an air gap, a penny. I don't I don't do it anymore, but I don't remove them if they're still there.
And if you go on the inside, the inside of the box is probably propylene shut, so the air gap did no good.
Yeah, that was for yeah, that was for the summer. Not winter. That was
Yeah.
and the other thing is that I treat my supers differently than I treat my brood box. You know, the brood boxes.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like Gary's talking about, he scrapes the frame rest and he lets the propolis fall into the hive. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care where it goes. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be messy. You don't want all that. I remember years ago the state inspector would take whatever, if he scraped something off, wax, propolis, and he put it on my front porch of my hive. And I thought, well, what are you doing that for? Because any critter that wants to, now that's just an invitation. It's like putting beer and pizza on your front porch and wondering why your neighbors are showing up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
when it
you
comes to
need to
like fur comb,
clean.
I'll throw that into, let's say, a bucket, and then I'll put my solar wax melter out there, and
Yeah,
you can get maybe a pound of wax out of it.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. But
but
you want to keep your yard clean. I mean, you can't be, you know, leaving stuff laying all over the place because the
Well,
critters
right
will.
now I've got wax paper laying all over the yard. They chewed it up and pulled it out and thrown it out the front.
now, like I know some people, they still use a quilt box, and I mean, I guess because I started the condensing hive with the insulation and the theory
Mhm.
of the heat dome and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, why you do, why, it's like Brad up there in Manitoba. He put a quilt box filled with shavings and all these big holes all the way around it. And I'm like, man, what are
Just
you
use
doing?
double bubble Reflectex. You know, reflect. Am I saying that right, Charlie? Reflectex.
Yeah,
Reflect a
I looked
double
at
bubble.
that stuff. There's no insulation factor there whatsoever.
Well, no, right. Well, no, no, and you're correct. It's R value of 1 by itself.
Yeah.
So you need one of those. You need dead space, which is the size of a medium for me. It's a honey super. The frames are stored someplace else. And then you have another Reflectex on top. So that air gap is where your insulation is. And this is Fred. This is coming from Fred. So that gives you an R value of 13. Now,
That's
someone
Fred.
did want to argue about 13, 14, 16. I don't know that part, but
Now, is that Fred Flintstone or?
yabba dabba. But you getting that R, that the two together with that space. That's where
Yeah,
my
well, that
wrapping.
airspace is an engineering thing in houses and everything
Right.
else.
Yes, and that's your insulation fact. That's how you're
It's just
that's
like
how you're
my
in.
hives there. You got that inner cover, and then I closed that hole up with a little, I don't know, let's say quarter-inch piece of wood that I made. And when I put my insulation on, there's that, I don't know, quarter-inch
It's not
rim,
enough.
But I mean,
I don't think that's
there's a
enough.
slight space there, and then you got your insulation, you got your roof on top of that, and it. I've been checking the bot. I've had them in the summertime where that you didn't have no air flowing. You raise that inner cover up, it's full of water. It's moldy and all that stuff. I haven't seen any of that this year, and so I mean, it works. It works. I mean, I've got the insulation, the 1.5 inch, which is just right. I thought about getting 2. I was looking at the R factor, but
Yeah.
1.5 inch works well with a telecover.
Well, so the
Yeah.
reason I don't like the insulation is because of ants. Come spring, that's full of ants. And then you got that crawling up your
I'm taking all
arms.
that stuff off.
See, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take things off and store it. Now I
Mhm.
do my honey supers, but I don't want to be taking insulation off, putting it in totes, putting it in a shed, putting insulation back on. I want what I do to be all year long. So what I do is that inner cover with the Reflectech double bubble in the summer when that rapid round comes off, I put a screen over the hole and they propolize that right up. So now that insulation, and then I have insulation on the telly cover that's maybe up here with the supers, maybe down here, but that insulation is now insulating against the heat.
Gary Stewart's got a good point there. I never thought about
Here you go. What is he saying?
single pane window versus a double pane window. The airspace.
Yeah, and they have some gas. They have put some gases between there too. I don't know what that purpose is, but yeah. So without that gap, he's talking about windows, but with the hive, without that dead air space in there, you're not going to get the insulation properties with two double bubbles. Like, say it's on your telly and then your inner, like that. That's not going to give you what you're looking for. You need that space. And it comes from house construction.
Okay. The R value on still air between insulation and insulation is R value of 3.6 per inch.
Right. So I have a super on 6 inches.
So you have 6 inches. Multiply that
Between.
times 3.6, and that's your R value.
That's 18.
Yeah, over 18.
Well,
Almost 20.
0.6. Yeah.
3.6
Okay.
times 6 inches. That's right around 20. An R value.
Well, I'll
20.
tell you, my snow is not melting off the tops of my hives.
Yeah, and
So
it won't.
now you know it's insulated properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that on my hives out there this year. Now, of course, I do have carpet, but even the ones that carpet doesn't go all the way across the front of it a lot of times, but you don't see them melting. And the ones that are just insulation with nothing else around it, they're it's all staying right there.
Yeah.
So let's do the math here on Gary. Bill, what was your math? I have insulated inner cover, 3/4 wood shim with Reflectex on both sides. So so help me out here, Gary. You have 3/4 and Reflectex, so with 3/4 inch between. So you're really not getting more than an R value of 6.
Hold on.
Reflectex is 1
He's
to
got
3.
3/4 of an inch of dead airspace.
Yeah. So it's not even.
Hold on, I'll tell you. So you take 3.6 and divide it by 0.75.
Yeah.
It's like a 4.8. It's not even a 4.8. It's like a 3.1, something like that. 2.9.
The dead space. So Reflectex is R value of 1. Tom said 3. So let's split the difference and be 2. So it's 2, not even 3 and 2. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6. R value of 6, Gary.
Yeah.
Where's Gary at?
I'm not.
He's over in
West Virginia. West Virginia.
Salem, West Virginia. We talked to him the other
Yeah.
night, Charlie.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
Right.
get more tea. I'll be right back.
Salem, West Virginia. Yeah.
Oh, it's right here. I forgot I had it here.
I don't know. I mean,
Too funny, though.
it's just like everybody was talking about how the bees are going to do that are living down in Louisiana, like where Lee is and
Mhm.
all them guys. And I think that's the topic of tonight's thing on String Team.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh, I
like,
forgot they were
I
on.
just kind of feel like, they're getting, it's like, all
They're
right,
getting a taste
I
of
was
what we
worried
do
about
every
my
year.
bees out there because I'm like, it's 15 degrees and 8 degrees at night. And it's like right now it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, I
Yeah.
went out there at 15, and that's what I really was excited about, that clear inner cover. Is like, oh, there they are. I didn't open them up or anything. And I'm like, they're moving around and everything like that. I'm like, well, they're all doing what I'm thinking what they're going to do and what people would say they're going to do, but
Mm-hmm.
is different than what I seen in the hive.
Yeah.
Yes. And
You know,
that's where beekeeping, that's where the rubber meets the road. I don't care what book you're reading. I want to know what you're seeing.
Yeah.
You
well, it's like,
know, you,
it's like I think I guess it was more religion, I guess, at the time. And somebody would say something out of the Bible, and my father would
yeah.
say, well, my book doesn't read that way. you know, that's
My
not the
book
way
doesn't
my
read
book
that
reads.
way. That's a good one.
And all that kind of stuff. And but what I'm getting at is like you say about these beekeeping books.
Yeah.
They all write
Just
they all
rewriting
write
the
these
same thing.
books, and they all do all these different things. And like you say, they're about half right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there used to be an extension agent. He would write in the paper about firewood, what kind of firewood to burn, nut wood and this wood and that wood and that. And then we knew him, and he would come over to the mill. And my father would say, now, Reg, what'd you write all that crap in that damn newspaper for? He said, I don't know. He said, I just copied it out of a book some other place and put it in the newspaper.
He plagiarized the book.
Well, and that's why I don't, my respect, like if you don't have an observation hive, I do not have an observation hive. But I want to hear what people are seeing in observation hives.
I'll give you a
You know,
story on that. I got
go
a
ahead.
guy within our club, and he's got one in his living room. Must be pretty good size.
Hmm.
And it had queen. They were going to requeen themselves. And he said he was watching a show, and all of a sudden that hive went berserk and really made a lot of noise. And
Hmm.
one of the queens piped. And everybody said, oh, the queen goes around and stings all the other queens and kills them. He says, bullshit. He said, I watched them. All the worker bees went in a frenzy and went around,
Yeah.
and let's say there were 7 or 8 queen cells. The worker bees chewed them out, and the worker
Tore
bees,
down.
They
no,
eat
they
them.
didn't tear them down. They opened up a side and they stung that queen. The
Yeah.
queen didn't do it. The one
Yeah.
that piped the first, that was the one they left, because she's saying, hey, I'm getting ready to come out. And they went around and killed them all. And
Yeah.
all
I've
that.
seen them
Well,
go through and open up cells that weren't at the purple-eyed stage yet, and open the cell up and eat the queen that's in there.
yeah, it's
Cannibalize.
good protein for them.
Yeah, it's good.
I leave brood. If I have brood somehow, I get some milky brood for whatever the situation. I put that back in the hive for the
Yeah.
protein form. But there is a picture. Saw my or one of the estate inspectors has a video of a queen backing into a queen cell and stinging that queen. So I did see that. I
Well, I'm not
saw that
saying
on
they
video.
don't. I don't say they don't. I'm just saying that
Right. There's
it's not.
there's lots of ways to kill a queen.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
they're they're the hives do different things what most people tell and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Right.
Who
So
was
this is
that?
what I
Jeff?
do, Gary.
Hmm?
I use an empty medium super on top. So I take my frames out, I freeze them, which is a process I'm not going to talk about now, but so I have that empty box. I can either stack them all somewhere in the yard or I can put them back on top and use them as part of my insulation, which is what I do.
So, what is your setup? Do you have you're doing migratory covers, right?
No. So, well, here, I don't know. Let me, oops. So I do, currently, I have a bottom board, I have a medium, which is brood box, and then I have a deep. So that's my winter, that's my brood configuration, is a
That's
medium
what
and a
Bill's is.
deep. So I was doing where it was the deep and the medium, but I was always having to take that medium off to do a hive inspection. I don't want to look in that. So I put the medium as box number 1. Me and Mike from Oklahoma are doing it. I put box number 1. I wish I could show you. I want to
Now you
bear with
got to
me here.
use that deep to do inspection in the medium.
I want to pull up a picture here. Give me 1 second. Um,
I'll be back.
uh, here we go. Here we go. Let me here. I think this is a good one. Yeah, here you go. Okay. This present screen window here. Okay.
That's a deep medium.
And now I'm going to click on it. Is that okay? So this here is so here's my bottom board. This is a deep. Oh, this is the old way. Here's a deep, here's a medium. Here's my inner cover, which is called a deep wintering inner cover. Has no openings, about 3 inches. Has a circular hole in the towards the front, which you would consider the front of a hive. And then I have a medium, which is a winter. This is a winter configuration. And then my inner cover. But what I did was I switched these two. I put my medium on the bottom board, and then I have a deep, which enables me to have a very quick inspection. When I take that inner cover off and I pull out of that deep, I can inspect a hive looking at 3 frames right in the center. Usually my queen is there. I can see brood. I can see her pattern. I can see, if I want to look on the sides of that deep to see how much food is in there, I can do that too. But I don't really ever have to go down in that medium.
Well, does she go back down in her leg?
Yeah, because it's the
She
bottom
will,
box.
but
That's her
the
brood nest.
brood right. So the idea is that she would go down in summer. They would stack some honey up there. But yeah, so she can move that brood pattern, move a little bit between that deep and that medium. It'll settle somewhere.
Okay, so
I'm not. Mhm.
I guess my question is this. So if you're going to put the deep above the medium, and
Yes.
that medium is now going to become her quote unquote number 1 brood box.
No.
So now you get why?
Because
She's going to go to the lowest point in the hive to lay brood.
Near the entrance, correct.
Yeah.
So in the heat of the summer, she's going to go down.
Yep.
And then they're going to backfill most of that deep with honey, hopefully.
Yep. Yep.
And then and then they'll work up through. Yeah. So my brood box is the deep and the medium together. Just think of that as one unit, where
Yeah.
they
That's
kind
what
of
I'm doing. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing. But when it comes to doing an inspection, if you want to get down into the medium, into the actual brood nest, quote unquote brood nest, you got to handle the deep now.
Yeah, but
Whereas
I
if you
don't.
run- If you go back to your old configuration of the deep medium,
Right.
you're only handling the medium's weight to get to the meat of the brood box in the deep on the bottom. You don't have to.
So I
You
haven't
should never have to move that deep.
in real life, that has never been a scenario. When I pull the deep, I have a good chunk of the brood right there. I can see,
Yeah, I
like,
could agree with that.
Now, are you saying you're pulling the box off, Nancy, or are you saying you're pulling the frame,
pulling the frames.
pulling the frames out? So you're
When I
not.
pull, sorry, yeah. When I take that inner cover, now I got the deep. I pull frames out of the deep, and I can see what I need to see there.
Okay,
Now I'm
but
not checking for queen cells and all, like that's a whole different part of spring.
if you do that, if you ever need to get into the medium, you've got to handle that deep.
Yeah, I just take frames out. I would take frames. I wouldn't have to pick up that whole. I would take frames out, pick up the deep, go into the medium, put the deep, put the frames back in.
Okay, but still, you're manipulating the deep in some
Yes,
way.
you're correct.
So
You're correct. But the difference is that I don't have to handle that deep every inspection. When the deep was box number 2, I had to move that every inspection unless she was up there. I couldn't
okay,
see enough on a medium.
so well, that's true. So if you have the deep on the bottom board and the medium above it, I would much rather move the medium and pull frames out of that brood box on that deep brood box on the bottom.
Yeah, and I did that for years. That
Yeah.
was my configuration for probably 5
Yep.
years. So
That's
so
what I
I
run.
did
Still
I
run.
and then I would leave that medium when that medium got full of honey, box number 2.
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
that got full of honey, then I put a queen excluder, I put my supers on.
Yes.
Well, now, okay, so the flow happens, blah 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 blah. We take the supers off. I'm back to my telly cover. Now I'm every time when I do more inspections, I got to take that whole medium of honey off. That was a lot of weight for me to be throwing around 40 times in a hive, in an apiary. So I put the medium underneath. I,
I'm just
I've
looking. I'm
only
just
done it.
thinking. I'm just looking at it this way because if you have that deep on top and you should really be checking for swarm cells once a month or so throughout the year. And where are the swarm cells going to be? They're going to be on the bottom of the main brood nest.
Well, I clip my queens. So, right. Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
So
Do
you're
I go
still going
through
to have
every
to
frame?
manipulate the deep in some way and either remove an empty box or remove a full box to get down to the main brood nest to see the bottom of those frames looking for swarm cells.
Right. So this is I ran a couple 2 years 2 years ago I started some hives that way.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I did all my hives that way. Am I going to keep them? I don't know. I may pull that medium out and just run single deeps.
That's
I
what we're
don't
doing.
know if I'm uh, single brood management.
Yep.
Wait, how do we use to?
Single brood chamber
Um,
management.
Single brood
right.
management.
Yeah, there you go. That one. So yeah, I mean, there's the advantage of swarm control. It gives them that medium underneath, gives them the illusion of having more space for springtime swarm management. I don't know if I'm going to continue with it, but I really liked my fall inspections by just being able to pull that deep out, the frame out of those deeps. I
Yeah,
really like that.
I can see that. I can see you see it that way. I'm open. I'm an open-minded beekeeper.
Let's
Although
see.
some
Show
people will tell
myself.
Bottom
you,
line, and whatever works for you.
yeah, whatever works for you. But some people will tell you that I am an old codger set in my ways when you walk into my apiary because everything, every hive is the same.
That's called
Well,
commercial.
that's not my hive.
That's
My
that's called
apiary,
commercial.
I got
Yeah.
different stuff. I got different stuff going, I mean, different things. So I'm trying to find a picture here of what my summer setup. I mean, it, let me see here if I
Oh,
can
really? I
find.
mean, if you're talking about like that, Bill, my highs are like that too. All
Yeah.
my all my 10 frame, uh, they're all 3 mediums. You know, they
Yeah.
all go in the winter the same size.
Yep.
They've all been filled up with sugarwater honey to the point where they can't take any more.
Yeah.
My nukes are at least either 3 mediums or 2 double deeps or
Yeah.
2 deeps.
Yep.
Or I've been transitioning from my deep frames to I want more medium frames because I run medium production.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's a deep and a couple mediums.
Yeah.
And I'm
I mean,
I'll be
well,
pulling those deeps out of the mix maybe.
yeah. When you
And
walk
all
into
that.
my apiary, everything's a deep medium brood box with at least in the winter. The winter setup is deep medium brood, deep medium, and a honey soup. That's my winter setup. You go
Say it
by my
again.
yard, you
How do
can
you
tell
say
it's
you
mine
say a
because
honey
every
super?
hive in it's the same height.
Now you
Same
got a
way.
queen excluder underneath the honey super or not?
No, not in the winter.
So you got a deep and 2 mediums as your brood chamber.
I have a deep and a medium brood chamber,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then in the winter they get a honey super on top of that medium brood box.
And then what do? Pull it off there? Or you go in there and queen exclude it early on so they can't go up there and lay?
Yep. Queen
So
excluders
why
go
don't
on
you,
April 1st.
so Bill, why wouldn't you just let them fill that medium that's already there for honey before you put your super on and then leave that medium on for winter? It's already full of honey. You're doing a
That's
lot of
what's going to
extra
happen.
lift.
That's what's going to happen with half of my hives this year because I'm transitioning to a single brood chamber management.
Yeah, because so that medium that I let them fill that up for the spring honey because I want my bees to overwinter on spring honey, not fall, because I really don't have a fall flow here
Yeah.
for 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 that. But I want what's in that medium. Now it's going to be half of the deep if I keep the configuration that I have. But I want them to have spring honey in there for overwintering if they make it through fall without having to eat all of it, which has been frustrating lately. But
Yep.
they eat it all up in fall. By September, they're
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, 20 years before Varroa hit, we were running double deep brood boxes and deep supers. I mean, for 20 years,
Yeah.
that's what I did.
yeah.
So I'm kind of set my ways when it comes to brood boxes and winter management and things like that. I do the same thing year in, year out because I know it works.
Yes,
So,
knowing your yard.
yeah.
Know your
Yeah.
yard.
Yep. Know your area, know your yard, know your bees.
Now Roy here, he's up in Michigan.
Yep.
And so you're telling me that you got one deep box and that's going through the winter. Of course, he's up in a freezer box state.
See, single box
I'm
management.
just
And then
wondering,
he
are
combined.
how you getting them through the winter, filling just that one box up with sugar water or whatever? You know, what are we doing? Playing around, running around, Rose?
I'm trying to get the names. I'm trying to get the names, but I don't know. Why I
Every
can't.
time you bring the thing up, Nancy, it knocks the name off.
Yeah. So then he combines. He does a single brood management after the flow. He combines the hives into become two deeps. The other queen, they decide which queen they want to keep, and then into winter to draw more deep comb. Two deeps into what? Oh, maybe he doesn't combine. Maybe he pops on. Let's see what he says here. Let's see what he says. Let's follow this conversation. I'm running 12 single deeps this winter. They seem to be doing well. So I'm wondering if that second deep was that foundation? Was that second deep foundation after the flow?
I don't know. There's one way to find out. You know, the old explaining, Ricky would say to Lucy, you got some explaining to do, so come in here and explain it, Roy.
Yeah, Roy. Oh, yeah, Roy comes on.
Yeah, come in here and explain it, Roy.
Well, the thing of it is, if you put that second deep on there and trying to draw wax, unless he's feeding a snot full of 1-to-1 sugar
Yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to
I
get
get him
them,
to.
to
You
get
want
them,
him to
because they're
pull
not going
wax.
to draw. They're not going to draw in the fall. But he's got maybe a different world. He's a different world up there too. But I think you got 33 Mile Bees Phil. He lives up in the same area, and their winter comes a lot sooner up there than what ours is. They're shorter. They got a shorter bee season what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know.
Matt and Sandy, that's a good comment that they've got up there.
I'm clicking on it.
It's Matt, Bill. It's not Matt.
No,
Sandy.
Matt saying, okay.
It's Matt. It's Matt. It's Matt. No, we had that confusion too. That's Matt and Alicia.
If I leave a honey super on, well, you wouldn't. If I leave a honey super on, our bees will likely be. So it's not a super anymore at that point. It's part of your brood box.
No,
A honey super comes
here's
off.
what he's saying. He puts a honey super on in the fall to go through the winter. When the queen and the cluster comes up to the top,
Yeah.
It's
no longer a super. It's no longer a super.
Hold on, hear me out.
Yeah.
She's going to lay some spring bees up there. That's true. But she will
Yeah.
always come down to the bottom on her own to her brood nest. You've just got to be patient and let her come down on her own. Don't go rotating boxes. That's an old wives' tale, because you may end up with her in the middle, trapped between two queen excluders, or trapped above a queen excluder if you do that. And then you're going to have a queen in the top. So she will, once she comes down, that super that she laid those frame or two of eggs in is not a brood box. It is still considered a honey super, because when those bees hatch out, they backfill them with honey.
You don't want to have honey coming out of frames that were brood frames.
Sometimes you have no choice.
Well, no, you do. You have a choice. So see if what Matt's saying here. So let's say he leaves a medium on. We run double deeps through winter and a feeding shim so I can split early with deep frames and brood. So
Matt's on
so
here.
you have,
asking.
yeah, so you have a double deep and a medium? Let's see. Well, Roy's here. We were asking Roy.
Yeah, explain your brood management practice.
Yeah, there you go, Roy.
Oh, I dropped off, and my Wi-Fi went to hell, so I didn't hear anything after I typed in.
So your comment that let me find it again. You're running.
So tell us about the deeps. Yeah.
Most of mine are all. I got 46 hives out there. Most of them are double deep, but I pulled off. I'll run that for winter. I'll just feed up the top and go there.
Yeah, so you run a deep brood box and then a deep super with honey in it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then in the spring, you pull that deep off and go back to single brood box management.
Yep, that's where I'm going this year. I did a little bit of it last year. Then I just got to draw more comb. So I start selling more nukes and doing more splits. I need to get that drawn comb as soon as they pull the honey supers off in there. Oh, like I said, those singles I've got are actually only 8 frames because there's a man lake cap and ladder and all 12 of them
Yeah. Yeah.
with that. And I just put a little fondant on them before it got cold, but they still had honey stores in there. Those carnies are frugal.
Yeah, they
Or
are.
whatever they happen to be now after, 5, 6 years
So
in
you
there.
get them to pull comb after the flow?
Yeah, I'll put on some thin syrup if they
Gotcha.
need and try to get them to build out those boxes. Um, I broke them down a little too weak last year, so I didn't get hardly any drawn comb that I wanted in there. But this year I got to change that up.
Well, it sounds like to me that we're kind of all when it comes to single brood chamber management. I tell people I run single brood chamber through the honey flow,
Yeah,
and
Yes.
then
Right.
I go back to either a double deep or 3 mediums for winter and all that. Whereas you got folks like Ian and up there and
Yeah. Okay.
Brad, they're doing true single deeps. And they're actually, but I guess because of the winter shed where they're controlling their environment and they put them darn bees to bed for what, 6 months at least?
Yeah, at least 6 months.
At least 6 months. And they control the environment. And they're talking about 10 frames of honey. There is, up down here, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're going to fill up the brood nest. You're going to fill up the brood. I says, those guys fill up the brood nest every year. And
Yeah,
then it's a different process. They can kind of get away with it, I think.
Yeah, they
Whereas-
can, because of the environment that those bees are in throughout the winter. They don't care if they get honey bound because they're going to eat that bottom box anyway of honey. And then in the spring, there's the brood nest back.
Mhm.
They don't care. And I think if we did a little bit of beekeeping in the States like they do in Canada, I think our bees would be better off.
I can't get mine to take that much. I can't get mine to store. So my issue is I can feed the snot out of them, but they utilize so much of that surviving that by the time winter comes, they're not they can't take it down anymore because it's too cold. Although I can get away with I can feed liquid very late because I have it between the double bubble in that medium. It stays warm in there long. Um, but I can't seem to get them to put weight on like that, like they
well,
do up there.
I run into trouble because I'll pull so I can get the ApiGuard on in time. I've got to pull my supers, first, maybe into the second week of August. I even try, if I pull it off in August, that way I got time to treat them and come back and treat them again. I waited too long last year. I went into the third week and it was too hard to get. The temperatures weren't right.
Yeah.
So in August, you're already going in the fall.
Yeah.
Where you,
Yep.
where you
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first week in August is
where's
where I'm starting.
what's your honey months up there?
My honey months are about from June, July into August. Then I'll get goldenrod and, aster and
So you're still
in there.
frozen in April and May.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where I can do some splits and in May, but I'm making queens. I can't get it done until end of May,
Really?
going into June.
You're like 8 weeks behind us.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm up on the, if you look to the map, 45th parallel in there, but
Yeah, he's well above us.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's what I'm getting at is what he has to do. That's what most people miss is the fact that where you're located at, especially where you're at, Roy,
Yeah.
it's like, we're like, I'm ready to, it was like, I watched a couple of Demery videos here this afternoon and the guys are saying, well, when the swarm cells come, and we did this and we did that. And I'm like, why did you let them have swarm cells? Why weren't you in there early? I mean, I'm putting honey supers on the last of March. When I see the maple start to bloom, a honey super is going to be coming on. Now, if I've got brood boiling out of my hives, which I hope I do, I'll put 2 honey supers on, not for the honey, but to give them space for the bees themselves, just for them to hang out. And
if it's warm enough, I'll drop some supers on in the end of April, just so they're there in case something starts coming in. So they got room to move up.
There's a month difference right there between me and you.
Yeah.
But I mean, the one guy was talking about, I don't know. I mean, it's just what I've experienced and what I do as a rolling demery, or like even with, I might try some what Bill does, the original demery like Keith Jardine did, Nancy, where, you move it all upstairs and leave her down in the bottom, and that'll save me a lot of work. And,
well, that demery is a lot of work. Remember, he's 6'4", Keith. 6'4", 6'3".
I got a hive lifter,
and he's still 6'3", even with age. So yeah, that demery. So there's two ways to do a demery. One is to increase, and one is to produce a lot of honey. And you got to figure out the difference.
Yeah.
Each demery gives you 2 things. It gives you increased honey production and increased bee production.
Yes. Because the bee production gives you the honey production.
Well, that's how I increased the year 3 and 4. That's how I got my increase of colonies, was because the demery method, I couldn't figure out the honey part. Like I was doing it. I don't know. I haven't done it since. But when I did the demery, all I did was create more hives, which was okay. I mean, I still don't really know what I was doing back then. I don't know now, but so I don't touch the demery anymore, because one, I don't need, I can make enough hives already, and it's too much work. I'm not lifting and pulling and doing. I'm not. I can't do it.
I can't figure it out. I watched somebody, and it wasn't Charlie, so I'm not going to blame him. I watched somebody doing that demery, and they were trying to show it step by step, and I was so confused by the time they got done in that half hour or 40 minute. I went, nah, it's not for me. Plus, I'm 5'8", and I got short arms. I'd never make it.
You need a step ladder.
I fell off a step ladder before. It ain't fun.
Well, the thing of it is, I went to a club meeting, and there was a young commercial beekeeper there, and he made one statement, and he never explained. He said, well, we don't normally run double deeps. We're always running single brood chamber. And that's when nobody talked about single brood chamber. Yeah. And the main thing that I learned about single brood chamber management and with the demery is that when you go to that single box, the 2 mediums or the single deep, it's like we were talking about queen run. You're manipulating again. You're trying to get these bees to do something through manipulation. And what you've done, you've created this cavity that the queen lays it all up in eggs. So they don't have, they can maybe put a little bit of honey and pollen in the corners of the frames. And you've just forced them to put all the honey in the super through the queen excluder upstairs.
Exactly.
And instead of, you always heard the ones, well, you got to bring them outside frames and honey supers to the center for them to fill it up. In this method, you don't have to do that, because they need all the space they can possibly get, and they will fill 9 frames right up.
Yep.
And all that. And
Philip, how did you fail, Philip? When you were doing the demery, were you trying to increase honey production, or were you trying to increase colonies?
It's all simultaneous, Nancy. That's why you're getting more honey, is because you create more worker bees.
More bees.
It's simultaneous.
Well, yeah, but the way you create more colonies is you end up
I
with
don't
a
want to
queen up
create more
top.
colonies. I want a robust hive that's just banging it out and all.
Right, but you would so I well so I was missing the queen cells. Like I said, this was 5 years ago when I did it, but I ended up with queens up top, probably because I had an upper entrance. But
There
I
you
had a
No,
go.
queen up
no,
top,
you got to go
had
up
a
there.
box.
If you're going to bring that brood up to the top, you better be back in there in 4 days' time and shake every frame off and kill every queen cell,
I
unless you want to
wasn't,
utilize those
yes,
queens as splits.
yes,
And
Yeah.
that's
right.
where Bob Walker messed up. He kept splitting and splitting and splitting, and he kept weakening and weakening the hive.
Yep.
And that's another
Yeah.
thing is when you're talking a demery, you better start out with a huge, strong hive.
Yes.
See, and I don't,
What I've
And then
I
what
don't
I've
have it.
when
I
found.
you
couldn't do
start
it.
out, when you start out with that single brood chamber management on the bottom, the frames of brood that you leave in the bottom are almost completely capped. You want no eggs left in the bottom. None. You want capped, almost completely capped brood or older larva brood in the bottom.
Emerging, Bill.
Emerging brood. Yes.
Yes.
All the rest of it goes on the top because Charlie does a rolling demarray. I do a traditional demarray. So the traditional demarray starts with at least 2 mediums in between those brood boxes
Yeah.
and 2 queen excluders, and then the old brood box goes on top. I come back 4 to 7 days later and I kill every queen cell in that box.
That's the
Or
part I forgot.
or I cut them out and use them in a different box. Okay. If any of those hatch, now what you have on your hands is a split hive. That's what you've got. You got 2 hives instead of 1. So the purpose of the demarray, it's 3 purposes actually to it. It's a false swarm. It creates bee production. And it doubles to triples your honey production is what it does. That's what it's used for mainly is the honey production. But when you tear that thing down in July, now what are you going to do with all these bees? You got late season splits. So now here goes this. You feed the snot out of those splits until you can't feed them anymore.
No.
And then they'll go through the winter. And if you're going to sell nukes the following spring, there's your overwinter nucleus hives right there.
Gary, you don't want to add a screen. Hold on, Bill. Gary, you don't want to add a screen because you need those bees to travel
They have
through
to
that,
travel the
the
entire
queen
hive.
excluders. You need
Yeah,
them to go up and take care of that brood up there
Yeah.
while they're putting honey in the 2 supers between the 2 brood boxes.
Yeah,
Well,
so
now
you're not.
you say you
you're-
put an upper queen excluder up there. If you get a virgin queen, that queen excluder ain't gonna work. I mean, they're gonna go right through her.
I know. Everybody
That's
knows
right.
that's why
And
you kill queen cells. But
that's why I was
the
getting too
brood
many.
that you put on the bottom should be covered with nurse bees. All the other nurse bees go up to the top with the other brood. You're actually trying to encourage them to create queen cells up there so you can harvest them.
So are you trying to create more honey with these, or are you trying to balance between honey and more brood?
Roy,
With the
you're breaking
demarray.
up.
every
I
third
mean-
word.
Here, we're losing. There we go. Now you're back.
I caught about every third word.
All right. Oh, okay. I moved 2 inches the wrong way in the shop here. Are you trying to get honey out of these demarays, or are you trying to get more brood, or a little of both?
We're getting both.
Both.
Yeah.
How much honey do you get off all that work?
Last year, I ended up with 4 honey supers and a deep every one of them that I did. So
I
I got
don't know, 2 years ago, I averaged about 80 pounds.
300 to 400 pounds of honey off of one demaree.
Holy good God.
And then I got 6 nukes off of it, each one of them.
But that, when it comes to honey, Roy, it's like everything else. It's location. What's
Yeah.
right, what's around.
Yeah,
you.
it's all in what you've got around you. So I've got plenty of food around me, so I have no problem getting big honey crop. But now my smaller hives didn't produce last year because we were in a drought, severe drought. But the big demarees did.
Yeah, I had
because
more rain.
of bees. And I didn't do them in wooden hives. I did them in my nail hives so they keep working. And they did. They worked all summer long, even in the heat.
Well, maybe I'll go to the tutorial of Sawmill Charlie, and look at this demaree.
Well,
You got
wait
one
till
out there, don't you?
It's not that
I do
very.
my split class, and then you'll see another one.
Yeah, it's not that. I'm gonna do it again because it's not very good. I was going to do it this past spring, but everything went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
What? Let's do it at splits class. Let's you and I do. You do yours, I'll do mine,
Okay.
and then we can put them out together. So that way you see the difference in them.
And you got free labor to lift all them boxes, Charlie. You just stand back and fill them.
Well, I got a hive lifter, and then when it comes to honey supers, I got a guy that helps me out because he uses my equipment.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which helps out a lot. It's not so much taking it off the hives. It's like where I have a back porch and I can back the truck up to a open porch with a handrail, and he can stand on the truck and put the box up on top of the handrail. I can grab it, walk it into the back porch, and put it in on top of an upside down lid and start stacking boxes.
But the thing about the traditional demaree, once you set it up, unless you're going to add some more supers to it, you should never have to inspect it. You should never have to tear it apart. You should never have to open it up in the brood box and look at it. You should never have to do anything with it.
And she'll last. Let's say what your honey production is. What, April, May, June?
April, May, June. Yeah, we pull it.
Maybe
pull honey
last year, maybe July of last year, because there was an extra flow.
Yeah.
For everybody seemed like there was an extra flow for something. But so you're pulling everything out of the bottom except a couple frames of brood, and the queen.
Yep.
She's on an open frame laying, I presume, right?
Yep. And you put some drawn comb. You put the frames of brood and drawn comb down there if you have enough to fill it. If not, whatever you've got, and then you put empty frames in the rest of it and let them draw it out. And she will fill that bottom box with bees over and over and over and
without
over.
Swarm cells.
Huh?
Without giving you swarm.
Without swarming, because she thinks she's already swarmed.
And that'll last for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And then by the end of the year, she's pretty much done. She's probably got enough left to get through the winter, and that's it.
As far as her production.
Yeah, as far as her production.
Well, here's a good question from Tom.
They take care of the other brood that's in the bottom box. And then they become workers.
Brood's emerging. Isn't the brood emerging at the time that?
Maybe he's asking about the top box.
Where does the queen go? She just stays in that bottom box.
Yeah, she stays in the bottom box. So that bottom box.
It's a convoluted process. I didn't. it just turned out to be, like I said, I mean, I did that in like the third year of beekeeping, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just created queens up top. I had upper entrances, and then I had a queen up top, a queen in the bottom. It just was a mess. So I pulled the deep off the top, just created a whole nother hive. And now I just don't have any desire to do all that work. I'll just have another hive,
What work?
you
There's no
know?
work to it. It's easy. These are the easiest splits I've ever done.
Well, no, because okay, so you have a deep, you got two honey supers, and then you got a deep on top, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So now you got to take that deep off the top. You got to take those two supers off. You got to get into the bottom.
For what?
You got to take them out. You got to put the supers back. You got to put I mean, unless you slide them to
You're
the
starting with
side
a
and just
regular
work.
hive. You're starting with a
Hmm?
regular hive that you overwintered,
Right.
right? Deep box. That's your brood box. Your old brood box. You take that off, set it aside, find the queen, put a new brood box on the bottom,
Hmm.
2 frames cat brood, couple frames honey, couple frames pollen, put the queen in there, put a queen excluder on it. Bam, next medium. Bam, next medium. Queen excluder, old brood box. Walk
Right.
away for 5 to 7 days. You don't need to touch it.
So how much honey is in the two supers you have in there?
They'll fill them.
Right. So now I'm
They're
taking
empty.
off two
They're
full
empty.
supers to get.
They're
No,
empty.
you're missing it, Nancy. Is
You're
that
missing
he
it.
put
I
the
am.
two supers on, put the box up on top, and then let all that,
It gets filled with honey.
merge, and then he just keeps stacking honey supers on.
Oh,
throughout the
okay. I see where you're doing. You're splitting that single brood chamber.
You're making a single brood chamber management on the
Wow.
bottom, so
Yep.
it creates a false swarm. Right?
I got you.
Yep.
I got you.
Yeah. 2 frames
I
of
had the
brood.
rolling demery in my mind because the rolling demery is what Keith Jourdain does
Yeah.
up here, where he's always
That's a
constantly
lot
moving
of work.
Yeah.
all,
That one's a lot of work. You're constantly
yeah.
moving frames. You're constantly moving honey. No, when I say traditional demeray,
I got you.
once you set this up and once you go up there and kill all those queen cells, the only time you need to touch it is when you have to add a honey super.
I got
That's
you.
it.
All right, now with the top box, once they're all emerged up there, so that box is going to start getting filled, right?
Yeah, they'll backfill it with honey as the brood emerges because they can't create a queen. There's nothing there to create a queen cell because everything's too old. They start backfilling everything with honey as the brood hatches out, which is usually that box is the first one filled, and it's usually filled within the first 30 days of doing the split.
So
that sounds pretty easy now. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
but what I'm getting at is that proves my theory that I kind of learned this past year. I did so many of them under supering with mediums, and so many of them where I just top supered them, kept on doing it. And I found it seemed like to me that the honeybees filled. They don't go from the bottom up. They're filling that hive with honey from the top down.
Yeah. Think about what you're doing is you're creating that tree. Is what you're doing. You're recreating it. Think about a wild honeybee, a feral honeybee. Where do they start with their honey? In the top. They fill from the top down. They don't fill from the bottom up. We as beekeepers have made them fill from the bottom up because we don't put another honey super on until that's full. Or we take it and put an empty on.
Salad. And one little 12 pasta. That's good.
Yeah, but it seemed like to me that I don't know. It seemed like you would if you're putting one super on, and that one getting about let's say 80% full, and instead of me putting a empty underneath the bottom of it, I'm just stacking them on top, and they'll just keep filling the bottom one and they'll start working on the top one, and it's easy
Yeah,
for
that's how we were taught as beekeepers to do it.
the
But when
under
you
super.
to over super to on top, that's how we were taught, and that's how we've trained the bees to work as beekeepers. But when you look at the Demarest split, all of it's already there for them.
So you're adding four honey supers on and the
You
brood,
can, yeah,
and then you just walk away.
walk away, let them work.
Okay. So you give them the space all at one time.
I give it to them all at one. There's a lot of people that do that anyway. They give them all their space at one time. Now, some years when you do it, is it sporadic some years? Yeah, it is. Until those bees learn that, hey, I've got all this space I've got to fill. And you got to make sure that your queen is a very productive queen, a prolific layer,
Yeah.
because that's what's going to help fill that hive with bees.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that I learned. I observed here. I guess it was this year or last year. I forget now, but I think it was last year that I had 4 hives in a row. The first hive was just, overflowing with bees. I put the honey super on. When you took the lid off to look at the honey super, you could not see the frames from wall to wall. That hive was producing honey.
Yep.
Next one, it was the bees were covering their frames, but only, let's say, if there's 10, let's say there was 10 frames in there, you might had 6 to, I'll say 2/3 of the frames were covered up with bees in the center, in a rounded thing.
Yeah.
That'll produce about half the amount of honey that the other one was producing. And the one you go to the third hive where she ain't laying much, and
Right.
you don't see any bees. They're on the walls of the honey supers,
Yes.
but they're not covering the top of the frames. That hive ain't going to produce crap.
No, it's not. Because the
And
bees are on the walls, not on the frames.
Well, they're up on the frames
They're
up
making
on the
progress.
frames on the comb, but they're not overflowing on top of the frames, walking around on top of the frames.
Yeah.
And by judging it that way, I said that, it's like full blast honey production, half speed, and hardly anything on that next one is what I observed.
So those right there over my right shoulder, those
Right.
those two boxes right there, those orange transport boxes, it's 4 breeder queens in those boxes. And they're latch-all breeders. And those were bees that were out flying around in the apiary that came to those boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's me behind it. I'm building a Demarest split.
But
Wait.
you have to blow him up in
There.
their transport boxes there.
Those are transport boxes. They have breeder queens in them.
What are they battery boxes, I think?
No, those easy beasy.
Yeah, battery boxes.
The box. They're orange.
Yeah,
boxes.
they got multiple queen. They can put 20 queens in there.
Put
Or whatever.
20. You put 20 queens in it.
Yeah.
We have 4 breeders in them, and I'm building the Demarest split. Those breeders are getting ready to go into breeding hives.
But that's what I learned.
Tom, you need more queen excluders. You're
You
going to
need
use two of them, yeah.
But that's what I learned is the fact that a very productive hive for most newer beekeepers would be a very intimidating hive.
Very intimidating.
Mhm.
Very intimidating through the sheer volume of bees. Like, oh my God, like 2 years ago when I put Apis biologic in my SERP and I come out there that spring and I'm like, I ain't never seen a hive like this before in my life. you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
it's bees from the bottom board to the roof.
Kind of
And I'm
scared you,
like,
didn't it?
well, I was like, oh my God, what, you know, I had a, you know, I have a plan in my head how I'm going to approach that hive. And it took that plan and just threw it out the window. And I'm trying to do a demory video. And I'm like, I got to stop the camera. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. You know, now it's like, I got it. I have to think about things. I can't think about it on the fly. And,
Right.
and I'll sit there and my thing right now is like, okay, if I got a hive that's overflowing that strong, I'm like, I need to weaken the hive down as far as getting rid of some of them bees so I can work it without, I don't want bees up in the air. I don't want bees falling onto the ground, you
No.
know, and you know, globs and stuff.
Right.
So my
Mhm.
thing is first thing I'm going to do is if those hives are like that this spring, I'm going to drop I'm going to put a queen excluder on, smoke them down as best as possible. Queen excluder and 2 honey supers on right away. And try to get
Yeah.
those bees to go up into those honey supers. Now I can move 2 boxes of bees
Yeah.
without them being up in the air. And then I can go into those 3 mediums and do my manipulation type of
Yeah.
thing.
So the other trick to doing the Demarest split is you want to do it on a nice, bright, sunny day when all the workers are out flying. You don't want to do it in the cold weather when all the bees are still in the hive, because then you're going to have a situation like Charlie had. You're going to have too many bees to work with to be able to do this split properly. So when you do this on a sunny day, your workers are out flying. So you want to make sure that when you put this thing back together, that it's put back together on the same stand in the same spot, same orientation that you took it apart in, because your workers are going to come back to that bottom box. And they're going to find an empty box, all except for the queen and a couple things of brood. That's what gives them the mentality that, hey, we've swarmed. Because who decides when they're going to swarm? It's not the queen, it's the workers. So they're going to think they swarmed. And then they're going to go up and see all this space. And they're going to say, wow, this is a great place to be. And they're going to start filling it.
Yeah, Tom, that's a good way of thinking of it. You just doubled your single brood for one cycle, or you doubled your single brood for one cycle. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But then I wouldn't extract that honey out of that deep that had brood in it. I would use that either on top of to go into double deeps for winter. That would be their stores for winter. Or I'd take those frames out and stick them on the outsides, 1 and 2, 7 and 8, to fortify the deep that I'm going to go over into winter. You know, or I guess you could take that deep off, equalize, and do summer solstice queens in that.
You
You
could.
could do that.
We extract it. I mean, it all gets blended together anyway.
And I got like, no, I can't. My customers now are so used to clear honey in the spring and very, very light, like Tom's and 33 Mile. We get some really light honey, and my customers, they don't even want the dark anymore.
Yeah, I guess it all, you got to look at what your customer base likes. So yeah, but I mean, we blend everything together.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I pull everything at once.
Yeah, we pull
I
all
can't
this-
figure out all I've got up here that would be seasonal would be Russian olive.
Yeah,
And I got a boatload of that in
Yeah.
here.
That's the good
we
light
pull
honey. That's
honey.
very floral.
But
That's
mine's
beautiful.
floral, but I still have a lot of color to it. More of an amber color. I don't get a clear in there.
Well, I'll pull and extract, put them back on.
You know,
That way I don't need a million supers that I can't keep track of or have to store.
Well, I store mine outside on pallets and I just put plastic over them and let them freeze
Yeah.
in there. So I
Well,
put
I have
queen
too much.
excluders under them.
Yeah, for varmints and stuff. I did that one year. But I have too much time between extraction and freezing that I would lose it to wax moths, or I mean, yeah, put them in the sun, and I did that already too. But there's too much time till we freeze.
Oh,
Like,
I
you
just
know,
take them down. I set them on the side and I've got my big trailer. I just pull down into the field and let them rob them out, clean them up, then I stack them and run.
So and the other thing you get out of this Demeray split is drawing cone. You'll
Well,
get a
that's
load
what
of
I need. So
Yeah.
that's going to
You'll
be
get a load of drawing cone.
in there.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I'm going to hop off. I got to get up at 5 tomorrow. So
okay.
I'm getting old. I got to go to bed earlier all the time.
I'm not old enough because you're still going to work in the morning.
Yeah, you're not old enough yet.
Yeah. 2.5 hour drive down for a meeting in the morning. Woohoo! So,
Oh,
other than
good for
that, you
you.
guys have a great night and nice.
All right.
Good
Thanks for
night,
coming on,
Roy.
Roy. Thanks for coming on. What's Tom saying? I pulled once.
He
One
pulls
in
once
10.
and then he doesn't have a fall flow.
Yeah.
1 in 10 fall flow. Okay.
He might have a fall flow in 1 time in 10 years.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, I don't have enough to.
Yeah. See, we
I
get a
don't have
fall
enough.
flow, but number one, I don't like the smell of goldenrod honey. Number two,
Ugh.
it's
Yeah.
it's all theirs, and I have to deal with the lanternflies down here. So
Well, that to me, it's a positive thing. I mean, just leave it in there and,
yeah,
it
they'll
saves your sugar bill.
Yeah,
Oh,
saves my. I'm getting away from sugar. I'm
Well, you
using
got what
syrup.
sweet, whatever salt.
Yeah. So
the
and
commercial guys here in Pennsylvania were telling the percentage that they increased their production, their yield, because of
yeah,
when we had the lanternfly real bad 5 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Their honey production went through the roof
yeah.
because of that land. They loved it.
Oh, I'm sure they did, but people that my customers either love it or they hate it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's that plum, that smoky plum flavor. Some
Yep.
people like it. I mean, bees go to aphids all the time. It's not anything new that they're attracted to aphid,
Right.
sugar secretions. But um, the lanternfly freaked everybody out. And once they knew what they were eating, then they really got freaked out.
Yeah.
But there was a guy in Philly called Liberty Bell Apiary, or Liberty Bell Honey, and his whole marketing was about the lanternfly honey.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they're pretty much gone from here. We had them
Yeah, I
bad.
mean, for me, the last year or two, this year, I didn't see maybe a dozen of them.
Yeah,
I've seen the
just like
nymphs.
the what was that other bug that came about 20
Stink,
years ago? It was
stink bug.
Stink bug.
stink bug. Oh yeah, the stink
We got
bug. It
them
was going to
damn.
destroy
We
everything,
still got them damn things.
Yeah,
and
we
now it's
still got
gone.
them here too.
We get a hand. I see a handful a year, maybe, if that.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. I don't swear by the Demeray split. We do them because it ups our production and
Hmm.
it helps us out during the summer. So that's why we do them.
Did everybody hit the like button
I don't know.
I don't know. Did they?
and the sub
I only
button?
see 7.
Oh, I
Now
think I'm
there's
up to like 48 subs, Charlie.
How many
Oh,
people you got
Homestead
on here
Avenger.
tonight?
You got a 53 subscribers.
Oh, 53?
Hmm.
Woohoo.
Cool.
And you got 13 people watching right now. I don't know.
Wow.
There's 100. I looked over on the stream. There are like 170 some people over there, but whatever.
Oh, yeah. I
There's
don't know.
people lurking.
I'm I'm so used to being able to talk, not just verbally here on screen, but in the chat. Like I'm so used to that when I can't do that, I feel like gypped or something, you know? I don't know.
You want to say hello to everybody.
Yeah, I want to be able to pop on or I want to be able to I don't know. I think we're just spoiled. Tom, I'm staying here. Thanks, Tom.
Well, I mean, I don't know. They start talking about stuff and it's like, okay, it's sort of like beginner, or they get the preaching and per se or whatever you want to, they have,
No
or they
religion,
get,
no politics on
and
mine.
or
Nope.
they are selling something or something,
Yeah.
and they'll sit there, and I've listened to them at a night, and they've talk about everything under the sun,
Hey,
and
there's
I'm like,
Doug.
and these people are throwing money at them like crazy, and I'm like, they didn't say anything about bees. They didn't help you how to do your bees.
Right.
What are you getting out of this, people? Or are you just getting
Hey,
all
look,
worked up?
Doug's on. Doug from Canada's on. Hi,
Yeah,
Doug.
yeah.
Where's he at?
Longman Apiaries.
Hey,
Doug's
Doug.
on here.
And the stream, the Wednesday night stream yard. What once spring comes, they're not on. They're lucky to be on one Wednesday a month.
Yeah,
And
they are.
then it's not until Nobby they start talking about the expo, then they'll come on more often. But they'll drop off Wednesdays.
Yeah,
They're not
consistency is the
consistent.
name of the game, Nancy.
Yeah, so
They're
I
pushing
don't know what
product.
I'm doing yet. I don't know. I kind of like coming on earlier. Like 8 o'clock is just too late to get started for me. Now I know it's 9:30 now, but you know, 8 o'clock's too late.
Yeah, I get up early in the morning, so 10 o'clock is about my max.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
your
So I
time,
don't like to
huh?
My
start.
problem of it is a Friday night and everybody's off the next day, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I know. And I'll stay on as long as there's a bunch, but I watch the ticker as it starts going down. That's when I usually like to get off by 10:30.
Yeah, and then you go into the green room and talk for another hour or two.
I know.
That happened last Friday or the Friday before.
That happened last night.
Yeah,
Me and Mike from New Jersey.
Gotcha.
and then what was it? Friday night. It was what, midnight before we got out of the green room.
Yeah. It was midnight last
Yeah.
night.
Yep.
This is about bees. You're right, Dennis. And I did want to say that in the beginning, and I never had to yet. I think this is my third chat, but there's other places to do religion. There's other places to do politics. This is not that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bill, I think one of the reasons why I've never done a demo ray, I catch usually 20 to 30 swarms because I'm on a swarm call. Yeah, and I'll just take the queen out with some of the bees and put them in a small nuke and dump the other bees in my production hives. That's kind of
Yeah.
like a demo. That's kind of like a manual demo ray.
Yeah, kind of. But you're helping your weaker hives out by doing that.
Oh, and my honey hives,
Yeah.
giving them more forestry bees, basically.
I have to ask this question, Tom, because you know how beginner beekeepers are taught. Anytime you combine bees from another hive with your hive, you're supposed to put the newspaper in there. So I have to ask, do you put that piece of newspaper in there?
Nope.
No.
Nope, I don't either. Not even when I combine hives, I don't put a piece of newspaper in between them. I
No.
just set it on there and they'll figure it out. I
Bees
don't
don't,
have that kind of time.
bees don't fight. Maybe the very oldest ones, that's about it.
That's about it.
No, I never bought into that whole fighting thing either. They're grooming each other.
Yeah.
There's the fighting stuff. I think is I don't think any of that happens. I think that's you know, whatever that word is, where you interpret their behavior by human behavior or human emotions. There's a
Yep.
term
Right.
for that. I don't. That's not. And even coming through the front door, if you're coming through the front door with pollen and nectar, just like you come to your friend's house with beer and pizza, you're
They're
gonna
gonna
be
let
let
you
in.
in. Yeah,
You
you
come
are.
in with
They're gonna let
nothing
you in.
and expect a party, you might not get let in.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's kind of true with virgin queens too. Let them walk in the front door, they'll be accepted a lot better than you trying to put them in through the top.
Yep.
Smoke them. I heard to smoke them good. Smoke them from the top, smoke them from the bottom, walk that virgin in,
Yeah,
and
that
they'll
helps.
accept her.
That covers the scent a little bit. Perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
Explain that one. As far as I've put them in my little 2-frame mating, let them drop right in where the sugar hole is for the sugar bottle. I had any problems that way, as far as I know. But what's the difference if you go through the front door versus the roof?
They say it's better, you have a better odds of acceptance. Acceptance. And that's usually from the commercial beekeepers. We're doing thousands of them.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is
And
do they have a science background why it actually happens, or is it just observation?
experience. Yeah. And they do it at night in the evening, typically after about when it's dark.
Yeah.
Okay,
So wait, a
So
virgin
that's just
doesn't
like
have
if
as
you have
many.
all your bees in a line. All right. Your two outside hives are going to be your weakest hives because of drift.
Right.
So if you take those two outside hives and move them to the middle, all of a sudden they're going to become stronger because of drift.
See, I heard that the opposite, Bill. I heard I was told I don't do mine in a line. I do them in clusters
Yep.
throughout. But I always heard that the ones on the outside are the stronger hives.
No, it's just the opposite, Nancy.
The opposite. They're
My out
weaker.
on my line of 21 hives, it's always my out first of any hives that will die during the wintertime. It's always my outside hives.
Yeah.
First two on each end, just
Yep.
because they
That
just
that would be
they don't
mite
have the
load.
bees.
Wouldn't that be because they have higher mites? They have
No,
higher
No.
population.
they have less
They're
bees.
weaker.
They just don't do as well.
No, they're
No.
weaker because
They're
of drift.
weaker from drifting.
Hmm.
They don't put out as much honey either. But I
Nope.
live with that.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right. I was told it was the other way.
No.
Someone Gary says in here they only fight robbers. I think yeah, they're defending their honey
Right.
at that point. They're defending their colony. I don't they're not, you know.
But you figure the
Yeah.
ones that are drifting, they come to the front door. Hey, well, I'm bearing gifts. Would you like? Oh yeah, we'll let you on in. Come on in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They got nectar on them. They got pollen on them. They're coming
Oh yeah,
in.
come on in. We're having a party in here.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
And
Right.
those guard bees, they're gonna let them in. I would.
Right. Right.
Oh, I wanted to tell you guys, I started my dude class. My dude, let's see, drones under something something. I forget where my notes are, but it's a 9-month course through Penn State, Robin Underwood. Um, and it's called Dudes. It's all on drones.
Cool.
So I'm sure it's on
Uh,
Tuesdays. It's Tuesdays at noon.
That's
So
cool.
I'm sure, when if I come on chats Tuesday night or Wednesday, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but
Yeah.
I'm talking
I
about
like
it.
the Wednesday night thing because
Yeah.
we have an alternative to place to come.
Yeah. Exactly. Eventually,
I think
like you were saying,
Look,
stream
look
feed's going to
what
drop
we're
off, and
talking
your
about
your
here. All
viewership
these,
is going to go up.
look at all the topics we've been talking about,
Yeah.
queens and
Yeah.
this and that,
Right.
memory. You don't hear any of that on the other channel.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't,
And I like
you only can-
conversations to move along. I don't want to talk about one subject for an hour and a half. Like I try to keep things moving a little bit. So I don't know. I kind of like to keep it fresh and
Yeah,
not get
sometimes that's
stagnant
going
or
to happen though,
You know,
because like tonight, we've been talking about this Demeray split now for almost 50 minutes. So
right.
it's going to happen.
You know, other thing I've noticed when I have all my lines in a hive in a row, one hive will have will overwinter drones.
Yep.
And,
wait,
I
what?
drones. So the drones that get pushed out of other hives will go into one hive out of my 21 hives in a row.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
And
They
they'll have tons of drones in them, and I'll still have a good laying queen. I think the queen bees do that as a community of colonies to help any hives that might need a queen early in this or late in the winter time or late in the fall time. There's
Yeah.
drones available.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. The course that I'm going through now at Cornell, we just covered that. And that you're almost 100% correct with that. It is true that they do that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so what it sounds like you're saying is the apiary is working as a
Yeah.
colony, not only individual hives, but the apiary as a whole is working
Yes.
As a hive.
Yeah.
as a colony,
As
as
a
a
communal organism. That's
yeah, there you go.
yeah.
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 It's
Yeah.
working. It's not
that was
working in one hive. It's working
as
as
far
a
as
communal
drones for me. I've been putting them green drone frames in here the last year or so. And
Mhm.
I was out there, I'll say last month when it was a little bit warmer, and I was seeing drones flying out, and I've seen drones flying in, and they weren't kicking them out.
Nope.
They're,
Right.
which, I'm leaving, and I'm not taking the brood out of, the drone
Mm-mm.
brood frames out and doing all, I'm leaving them in there because of course I'm gonna raise queens and I want drones and all that stuff. And it also reduces the bees from making drones in my, worker brood
Yeah.
comb.
Right.
And
You
the
got to
only
give
thing,
them. You
the
got to
only
give
thing,
drones space, or the bees space to make drones, not crammed in anywhere. They you
right.
got to give them real dedicated space, and that's what I was talking about
Brain
last night.
space.
Is I use a frame. I put the you can use no foundation. I put foundation in the middle, and then they can draw drone comb on the side. But I do drone flooding. Like I want a lot. I will let them make as much drones, as many drones as they want. They know.
I'm the
Um,
same.
so drones deliver mites for free, but that's only so they're on the nurse bees for a long time, and then they transition to the drones. They like the drone comb, but not necessarily the drone bee.
Yeah,
And then what's
the
this one?
drone.
Every drone that hatches has at least 4 to 6 mites on it.
You got to figure the
That
fact that the
yeah,
drone is
Because
what.
they have more fat bodies than regular bees do.
Right.
well, yeah, so they like right, the mites like the drone comb cells, but then there's a time when they really are on where they attach to the nurse bees, and then later they'll move to the drones. But when they come out, the mites either go back if 3 days later they're back in cells, or they're in nurse bees.
But they can stay in that drone comb for what is it, 3 more days? You got
3 more
21
days.
days for worker,
Yeah.
24 for
But
drone.
then they have to run around for 3 days before they can go back down. That's
Yeah,
why your OAV every 3 days is really important.
but what I'm getting
Not
at is,
4 days, not
they got a longer hatch period in the drone
Yeah.
yeah,
for
but
the
they
mite.
can run
For the
around
mite.
too. For some and that's Ed Sharp about, talking about that. I'm referencing Ed Sharp on that.
Yeah, but
So
they've done studies though that queens that get mated by 30 drones or more are eightfold, 8 times less mites in a hive
That's
right,
true.
right
that
now. They've done studies on that because of gene diversity. There'd be enough
Yeah.
genes that has the VHS slash mite eating, biting genetics in them.
I like to see some papers on that. I'd like to know
Oh, there
There-
are
who.
there are numerous articles out there on
Yeah.
drone genetics and what genetics that the drones bring to the queens when they mate. Everybody used to think that it was the queens that provided all the genetics for the hive. No,
It's the drones.
it's
The
the drone.
drones.
And the
That's what
drone
makes your meat. That's what makes your hives
pass
mean too,
on
is
your
drones.
temperament, your laying ability to the queens, your longevity genes. That all comes from the drone, not from the queen.
No.
Yeah. So I hear people, they teach people to pull these green frames out and freeze them after they're capped. And it's like, oh, that's the worst thing you can do. You're guaranteed to have mites in that hive now. Because you just taken diversity out of diversity mating of your queen,
Yeah.
the next generation.
Yes.
Well, the other thing too is what's this about not producing heat? I know that drones help hydrate honey
Yeah. They spit water
because
just
you
like
can
everybody
hear
else.
them. Did you ever open your hive and you hear what sounds like a flat tire 3 miles away?
I
Boom,
never
Yeah.
boom,
heard
boom, boom,
3
boom.
miles
Yeah.
away.
So
Those are
if
drones.
you heard somebody, so follow me on this.
Funny, Charlie.
So follow me on this. So if you hear a car with a flat tire a distance away, what's it sound like?
Thudum, thudum, thudum.
Right? Exactly. So when I'm in this
Yeah.
in the spring and summer, I heard that in my hive. I thought, what the
Right.
hell? So I started talking about it. This is before we only had chat one night a week, and other people were hearing it too. And here it's the drones
They have a deeper,
helping to flexing their muscles, strengthening their wing muscles, creating ventilation, drying honey, doing all, you know, so that's something that I've heard and seen happen in my hive.
yeah,
Well,
their
now,
wings be at a deeper
um,
tone.
Nancy's got a point. If you look at a drone's wings, they're bigger than a worker bee's wings. It only makes
Sure.
sense that they're going to be able to move more air and it's going to have a different tone to it. Look at
Right.
the Bell Huey helicopter. What does it sound like through the air? Wop 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 through the air. Listen to a Black Hawk. It doesn't sound that way. It's got a smaller blade, thinner blade than the Huey does. So it only
Well, there
makes
you go.
sense that
Right.
it's going to be it's a bigger wing. It's going to be a different tone.
So when I heard it, I the very first time I heard it, I thought there was a car with a flat tire on the other side of the farm that I live on, which is about half a mile, quarter mile, I don't know. But you hear noises and you're just like, oh, and then I was like, it's coming from inside my hive. So then after some discussion, it was,
You know, Nancy, 2 years ago, I had a hive that made noises every day. I
yeah,
mean, almost like they were talking to each other.
some
And
are very vocal, or I don't
They
know if
are.
vocal's the word,
Yeah.
but
yeah, this one was so extreme. I noticed it. They did it the whole season. Now, the following year, they didn't do it.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that we were talking about finding people wearing gloves. Well, I kind of feel that way if I pull up to an apiary and the beekeeper has earbuds in. I'm like, come on. Like,
Right.
what are
Hey
you
guys,
doing?
I'm going to hop off because I have to get up tomorrow.
Yep. Good night.
Night.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna shut this down too. I'll wait till 10 even. But
Um,
it's been another fun night.
that's like the earbud thing. That's like, I don't know. People are using them things while they're running pieces of machinery. And I'm
Oh,
like, people, you need to be listening to that machine.
mm-hmm.
Now, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I wear hearing protection all day long because I can't, I don't want to listen to the saws, but people say they're coming in the mill or whatever, and I have a hearing protection on. I can hear them better with my protection on than I can without. It
Yeah.
filters out all the background noise, I guess you would call it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
that
my
kind
husband has these for shooting for when he
of-
goes to the range, and you can actually hear someone talking better with these things on, but it cuts out I use them when I mow now, but when he's on the
It's got
range, takes
with the where if a gun shoots it shuts them
yeah,
down.
but you
They're
can hear
automatic.
someone talking, like figure that out. That's
Yeah. It
science there.
blocks out certain tone ranges,
Frequencies.
frequency. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, do I need to sign up for that class or go online and do that, Bill?
No.
Okay.
You and Bill and Darren don't need to sign up. You already signed up.
I'm not talking about the grafting class. I'm talking about the splits class.
You can if you want to, but you don't have to.
Okay. And all that.
How far is Bill from you, Charlie? I can get a general idea for how
Two and
many
a half.
How
hours?
close are you to
It's
81?
it's 150 miles or 160 miles. I mapped it out and to his town. So I figure that is 3 hours because I figure an hour per 50 miles.
So how
And you'll
far are you
stay
off
over.
81, Nancy?
You'll hmm?
How far are you off 81?
Just think of Philly. Think of when you
Oh,
so how far is
all right.
Philadelphia from you? That's kind of so it would be Charlie, but up
Yeah,
like
you're
this.
right near
Charlie's
Chester.
going
You're
You're
4
out near
hours.
Chester, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Okay.
You're
And
Harley. You're
what is it?
Harleysville.
King William or something out there. That's just kind of southwest of Philly. It's a big area out there. It's
what is it?
south. It. I want to say it was. I thought it was King William,
King of Prussia.
King of
King of
Prussia. Yeah.
Prussia. KOP.
Yeah.
KOP for the locals. Yes,
Yeah.
that's about 10, 15. Actually, the one market I work in the summer, it'll be my third year. I'm gonna go every other week. It's in technically it's outside of King of Prussia, Upper Marion. But yeah, and that takes me 20 minutes to get to
All right,
KOP.
I got it on here. If you is it easier to go to 78 up to Allentown and that down that
No,
way?
no,
All right,
I'd run the pike and then run the pike to 81 and then
all right, to
down.
Carlisle. All
Yeah.
Mhm.
right,
You'll.
76
I'm
from Harleysville.
I'm about 2 hours from Carlisle.
It says here that it is what is it? 3 hours
I'm
and
an hour and
58.
a half from Carlisle, so 3.5 hours, 4 hours.
That's what it says. 3 hours and 58 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a trip I would do and then be able to process a class,
Right.
you know.
That'd be a long ride for you. You can catch it on YouTube.
Yes. Oh, are you gonna have it live
No,
to subscribers?
it's going to
Like,
be recorded
okay.
because they don't charge for a subscription. It's free for subscribe. If you want to subscribe to my channel, it's free. So I don't
Oh,
charge.
okay. Yeah, I don't know about any of that stuff yet.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I really don't want to charge for a subscription. So, like a lot of people do. I just don't want to do that. It's not fair to the beekeepers
Yeah,
because they
I'm
pay
not
for
doing that.
beekeepers
I,
pay for so much stuff, you know.
yeah.
So
All right, Greg Dunn. Oh, here's someone that I didn't even know was on. Greg Dunn.
Who's
He
Greg?
says, "Great chat tonight, Nancy. I'm gonna like so." All right, cool. Thank you,
Well,
Greg.
it takes time, Nancy, to build your following,
yeah,
and I would say pick Wednesday night.
yeah, I
Start
would
it,
too.
and I like 7 o'clock is nice.
Yeah, 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. That's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just yeah.
I mean, we went 3 hours tonight, but you could go 7 to 9 or something like that.
Well, yeah, when it's winter and it's dark and there's nothing to do, I don't care how long I'm on or how many times I'm on, but when spring breaks, it's gonna be a different story. Well, so when spring breaks and I decide to do Wednesday, if that's what you're saying, Charlie, that's what I'll do. Wednesday night at 7. I'm gonna be in my yard. This live is gonna be me and my colonies. And anybody else coming on that wants to talk and this, that, and the other, but I'm not gonna be sitting on the sofa. That's for
Mhm.
sure. Oh, okay. Amherst. Oh, Bill, you know what I need? I need some
I
not
need
now, but
maybe
Fisher's Be Quick or some sort of what's that, the spray for my foam board. I need
oh,
a
honey be
bottle of
gone.
that.
Honey be gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got it. I've got honey be
yeah,
gone.
yeah. I'm gonna need some of that. I use
Okay.
about I don't know, I use about 8 ounce, 12 ounce every 2 years,
I've
I
got
guess.
them. I've got it in 8 ounce spray bottles.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Because I don't smoke when I'm pulling honey.
Yeah, make sure you read
I
the
just
directions on it really good.
yeah,
I got
I've
that.
been using it for
I had
years.
a
Yeah.
bottle that had a loose little. The cap wasn't very loose, but it was loose enough for it to leak out some.
Yeah.
Got on my hands, and I was like,
Well, I spray up my fume boards and then I put them in my hot car, 90 degrees, close up all the windows, have a sandwich.
I
Kidding.
hope you're not in there when you do it.
So,
Nah, it's all
Bill,
all out.
he says how far to Amherst, Virginia?
2 hours.
Does he live in Amherst, Virginia?
So
No, he's got family
he's
there.
either got family in Woodstock or he's got family in Amherst, and Amherst is 2 hours. It's 117 miles from me. And
Oh,
that
he
goes
says
south
down at
on
the bottom. He
81
says I got
and
family
then
there.
down 29. I know where Amherst is. I go through there all the time.
Mm.
It's down. It's north of Lynchburg on 29.
Mm-hmm.
Battery powered leaf blower. It works on no. Nope. Not doing that to my bees.
What is it?
A
Leaf
battery powered
blower.
leaf
You're
blower.
just splattering guts. You're spinning those bees. I mean, on low. I just I used to fume boards. It works great because I'm full sun. I got two of them. I put one on. I go to another hive, put one on, go back to the first one. Full sun, they go quick. They go down quick.
You know, this is the first year I've ever carried Honey Be Gone. First year I've ever carried it.
Yeah.
What did you carry before that?
Nothing. I didn't
Really?
carry it. I
I
just
mean,
have a lot of
Wrangler.
customers that requested it. And the reason I didn't carry it is because people didn't understand how to use it. Okay? They would put it on and leave it on there for 24 hours.
Oh no, that's an escape board. That's not a fume. Fume board's 10 minutes if that. If that,
And the
depending
directions
how
say
hot it
3 to
is.
5 minutes to leave it on there.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
well,
saying. I got a fume board. I spray that. I make an X or me and go
Yeah.
around the edge with it, and I use Honey Be Gone, and you
Yep.
put it on the darn hive, and I I got, I think 3 or 4 of them, and I'll put them all on.
Yep.
And by the
Yep.
time I go back to the first one, it's been, like you say, 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And or you kind of wait that long for 3 to 5 minutes for the first one. By the time you pull the supers off of that one, then the other ones have been at least 5 minutes or more. And it drives all them bees out of there on that
Right.
first super. If
But
not,
if
You're
you put it on
supposed
there
to. You're so.
for too long, you're gonna make all the bees abscond. They're gonna leave.
well, where do
And
they
people
come?
don't
Are
understand
these
that.
people? I mean, who are these beekeepers in your area?
Charlie, we'll talk about this off the air, but it's you gotta
Jesus.
yeah.
You're supposed to cockeye it too, just to follow the real directions. So
Yes,
you
you
I
don't
are.
don't
put
do
it
that. I
on.
put that sucker right on top and
Well,
let
it
them
depends. Like
sting them out.
so I have working time. Like if I know I'm going to be back at that hive pretty quick, I'll put it straight on. If I think I'm going to be a little bit longer, I'll tilt it a little bit so that they can come out the top. I don't force them all down through that queen excluder in a hurry. I'll cockeye it a little bit so that they can come out the top too.
Yeah. I mean, you sound like you know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, a couple times. I've done it a couple
Yeah.
times. And they are black. My fume boards have black tops, Gary. They
Yeah.
come black.
Yeah. Now I've seen them white. I've seen them black. I've seen
Mm.
homemade ones that have polka dot patterns on them and everything else. So
What, the
yeah.
tin
All right,
the
kids. It's 10:03.
yeah,
Your
it's time to
mattress
go.
is calling you.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
See y'all later.
All right, night. We'll do this again
Night.
soon. Or see you tomorrow. Wait, tomorrow
It's
tomorrow
Thursday.
night is
Ricky.
Ricky. Horizontal bees. So we'll see you there.
Maybe.
Is
So
it
what do we
done?
do here, Charlie? Just end it?
Is it done?
Yeah, you just go up there in the right hand corner and click in the live.
And then everybody goes away?
And then you go in the green room.
Then instead of being red, it'll be a gray screen. Click
All
on
right,
it.
hold on. Stay there.
Oh, we won't go anywhere.
We won't go nowhere.